This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's Craig Smoak.
Hey now, welcome in everybody to 365 Sports on a Thursday. And we don't have college football tonight, but we've got college football starting tomorrow. We do have the NFL tonight. It is a football weekend getting underway with the pros and soon to be mixing with the college ranks. And what that means is we are officially all the way back into football season. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're having a pretty good day today. I know I'm not normally the face or the voice you see at the start of the show, but today, very unique as I sit here and have the volume up on my computer straight out of the gates, just like a pro. But today, very unique because Smokey's out. He's covering high school football midway with a game later on tonight. So we're going to have some of those interruptions, I think, with their schedule quite a bit this season, last week, this week, and I think next week maybe as well. And so he's going to be in and out on Thursdays and Fridays. But Paul on vacation right now with a family affair. So it's me, but it's not just me. We got Garrett Ross joining me today on the show as well. Garrett, thanks so much for, just being here as usual, but stepping up to fill one of these seats here.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's like reminiscent of the old days. We haven't done this as a radio station.
Long time,
yeah.
man.
So, no, I'm glad. Looking to have fun.
Yeah, Garrett, as big of a college football fan as any of us, and so he's going to be here with us in the co-pilot seat for the next 3 hours. We've got a handful of guests. We've got a bunch of stories that we're going to get to as well. Also want to shout out Brandon Lowe, Andrew Valade behind the scenes, putting the graphics together, the poll questions. We'll have those at the end of the show, and just making us look good and sound good, unless I, turn up my volume, and they have no control over my stupid stuff. But no, we are excited to be here, and we are going to be talking a lot about some headlines here at the top, but about the games this weekend and just the various storylines going on. Before we get to the headlines, Sam Kahn will be joining us from theathletic.com here in a little less than 30 minutes. Also got Max Olsen of ESPN.com at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. 4:30, Mike Craven gives us a little Texas flavor from Dave Campbell's Texas football. And then at 5, Alec Busy from 247 talking some Iowa State football, the top team in my Mojo rankings. And if you haven't checked those out, the video up on the YouTube page. Wait till the show's over with, of course. But did my Mojo rankings yesterday, 1 through 16 in the Big 12, have the Cyclones on top, although it could be short-lived because, Garrett, they got a pretty big game against these Iowa Hawkeyes coming up on Saturday.
They do, man. I think this is the first time in quite a while that heading into this, I felt confident about Iowa State. Usually Iowa has their number. They usually dominate in the trenches and kind of slow the game down. And honestly, depending on the weather, these things can get ugly in general, but I really like the way Iowa State's playing right now. I think Rocco Bett has made a case to be the number one quarterback in the conference at the moment. I like what they're able to do with Abu Sama coming out of the backfield. They just have so many playmakers. You were kind of concerned coming into the season with Higgins and other people going to the NFL. Like, who are you going to step up and was your wide receiver core going to look? They haven't missed a beat, man, but you goes back to the defense. I think Matt Campbell has done a really good job of putting his philosophy and his identity into this team, and they really just kind of like that blue-collar mentality, and I think the Cyclones go out and get a dub this weekend.
I'm feeling good about their chances, but I know it's a rivalry game, have a ton of respect for Iowa, so I think Iowa State fans probably know as well as anybody, like, this isn't when you feel too good, because this is the team that would love to crush your 2-0, 3-0 start and just halt your momentum as best as they possibly can. So Alex Busy will join us to talk Iowa State. And remember, last year, the latest meeting between these two, Iowa State 20-19 in Iowa City, had the 54-yard game-winning field goal to walk things off. About this time last year, nearly a year to the day, they will lace them back up, and this time in Ames, Iowa. So very much looking forward to that one, and looking forward to talking about that one as we go along. And then also at 5:30, we had a pre-record. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. We typically talk college football the majority of the show, but we do jump out here and there. We were not really going to have an off-the-radar segment since I'm full-blown hosting today, so don't really need to separate and do anything. But if there are some stories that we have a little bit off the radar, we'll get to those. And one of the stories very much on the radar is the fact the Cowboys and the NFL, as I mentioned at the top, the season opens tonight. Cowboys Eagles, pretty big game. Obviously a lot of hand-wringing in Dallas over the last couple of weeks in particular. No Micah Parsons out there trying to chase down Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, the defending Super Bowl champions. But Smokey did get a chance to talk to Mickey Spagnola, so we'll have a preview and discussion between those two coming up at 5:30. You excited? Are you an NFL guy? I don't even really know. I think if I really talk to you about the NFL all that much. We're so deep into college football.
Man, like the past few years, I've kind of fell off with the NFL, more so because my Saturdays have been consumed by football. So I use Sunday to like hang out with the family and stuff. And plus, Washington has sucked for like 20 years.
Yes.
So now that you finally have Jaden Daniels there, we got rid of Snyder. There's that whole different vibe. And Washington was actually good last year. So it made it fun to watch, you know. But at the same time, it's hard to catch them on TV around here. But you are going to have them on Sunday with the Giants. So we'll get to see that. But I'm more of a college football person than NHL, but I will dabble with the NFL.
Yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in tonight. I'm very curious, and Eagles-Cowboys, such a great rivalry. But yeah, somehow or another, we're Texas guys / a little Louisiana sprinkling, and, you know, we got our backgrounds, but none of it says that we should be anything, like, for me, anything but a Cowboys fan, really. Yeah. And yet, Commanders fan, Smokey's a Commanders fan, which is part why I'm a Commanders fan, but yeah, there's no Andrew, you a Cowboys fan? Brandon is. You are? Okay. You said that very, you got to say a little more basic. You're like, yeah, I'm a Cowboys fan.
I think they've broken, man.
I think they might have.
They've broken it.
I think they might have. Depending on tonight, they might break a few more people, depending on how they look. But yeah, sans Micah Parsons. Here we go. Get ready, Dak Prescott. Back on your television, and looking forward to seeing that one. So we'll have Mickey Spagnola talking about that with David Smoak coming up at around 5:30. So there's the show for you today. And so let's get into some headlines, and there are quite a few to get into this morning. I was kind of wondering, like, what are going to be the main topics that we discuss besides just the games themselves? And the next thing you know, there's a boatload of headlines and stories of interest, and we've got enough spillover actually that we might not get into everything today. But this was a big national update, I will call it, because nothing is official just yet. But for all of the talk about the transfer portal, and we need to clean it up, and we need to streamline it and modernize it, and coaches are begging for it, there is some positive progress being made on the single transfer portal window, as you see here. Ross Dellinger first reporting that the NCAA's Football Oversight Committee voted in favor of a single 10-day transfer portal window following the 2025 season. So first things first, remember, is it's to jump in. It's not like you got to get everything done in 10 days. Oh my God, how are we going to make this work? It's just to jump in there. If approved, the transfer portal window would open on January the 2nd. And that's where some of you go, whoa. That's right in the heart of the playoffs. That's right at the tail end of the bowl game. So most teams will be wrapped up by then, but there will be a handful of teams that are getting ready to still play for a national championship and play in the semis and so on. So if approved, the transfer portal would open on January 2nd. Now, this is not official. The move still needs to be officially passed by the NCAA's Division I Administrative Committee by October 1st. So we are less than a month away from that. Oh, my gosh, this year is going by. So it's nearly October. Are you kidding me?
Ridiculous.
It needs to be officially passed by October 1st to go into effect after this upcoming football season. So all of this restructuring and changes galore and everything that's been, out there as far as the transfer portal in particular, this is a big step in trying to tidy that up now. We've had two, obviously, transfer portal windows for a while. We had December and then April. And so the December one was like messy as all get out. Terrible. I mean, that was ridiculous. You're signing your signing class while also trying to take guys from other schools, and you're in a bowl preparation if you're a team that won 6 or more. So it was just messy. A lot of guys not playing in bowl games. Marshall couldn't play in their bowl game because they didn't have enough players. Army, lack of players when Charles Huff left to go to Southern Miss, as Ross pointed out. So there were some instances where this really hurt some teams and messed up some games. So here we go. The spring transfer portal window would get tossed to the side. There will be some lap over, though, Garrett. Yeah. So this can't be perfect. And for anybody before they say, well, why can't we just wait till after the playoff? Because there's this thing called school. You may have heard of it. When it comes to college football, you still have to go play school. So they are still playing school as of right now. And until they're not doing that anymore, there is not going to be a perfect transfer window. So what do you think? Is this the best thing they could do?
I think it is. I know there's already some pushback. Stuart Mandel was out there saying he doesn't really see how this is going to change anything because you're still going to have tampering. And look, you're right. But at the same time, you've got to put something in place at some point. And I think this is a good step in the right direction. I think we're going to see this evolve. I don't think this is going to be put in place and this is just going to be here for the foreseeable future. There's going to be tweaks to it, but you have to start somewhere. And I think helping out the coaches, having this after the season, like you mentioned, not losing half of your roster or being in a Penn State situation where you lose your backup quarterback while you're trying to make a playoff run. I think you have to start somewhere. I think this is good. And it needed to happen. I'm just interested to see where we go from here with it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no perfect solution. So you mentioned Mandel and he said, not sure what this accomplishes. Well, accomplishes going from 2 to 1. I mean, so that's right there is one thing it accomplishes. We said coaches, agents aren't going to wait until January 2nd to start shopping, but kids will have less time to take visits. And so I guess he's taking the kids route there, but they're not
visits anymore. Like seriously, do you need a visit? How important is a visit when you could do it virtually now? You can. Most of the time, you already have relationships with players that are on these teams or with the fluctuation of staffs. You're already going to have these connections. I don't think you necessarily need a visit in the way you did in the 90s or in the early 2000s. I think it's different now. Like Deion's approach with recruiting. Like if you could sit in your house and you could jump on a screen and recruit somebody, I just think there's value in it's not having to travel. To me, the visits are kind of get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, they can. And that's a good point. COVID kind of showed that there's a lot of things that we don't have to do exactly the way that we used to do them. Like scheduling has become one of those hot button topics where it's like, yeah, we didn't have to schedule 17 years out. And I know that's a little bit over the top, but seen some 10-year outs from a game, and there's no need for that. You can get it done in a couple of years. So he's one of those who's choosing to pick this apart. Or not just say, hey, this is awesome. I'm going to say, hey, this is awesome. I know that there are more details that need to be worked out. But again, there's no perfect solution. I saw, this is why you need collective bargaining. And
that's right.
Yeah, if you're the players, this is where you go, hey, this doesn't work for us, brother. And then you collective bargain. But guess what? That's not in play right now. So until it is, the schools still ultimately call the shots as best they can. And so single transfer portal in January, not yet official, but something looking like it will be perhaps in the works and in play for the upcoming next offseason if they can get it done here in the next month. All right, to the next story. We've got some Big 12 news. The Big 12 open for business, baby, right? Open for business, Brett Yormark said. Well, this was a report earlier this morning. B. Portnoy 15. The Big 12 and Allstate are set to announce a multi-year sponsor deal. Allstate will be presenting sponsor of all Big 12 Olympic sport championships, along with the creation of Allstate Championship Series. Packed is one of most significant commercial deals in league history. So that was the report initially. And then shortly thereafter, go ahead and hit the next slide. We got the confirmation from the Big 12 itself making the announcement. Allstate Big 12 Championship Series. So another business deal for the Big 12 where they're going to have, I guess, just more branding. And this was a story that initially when I saw Allstate, Garrett, I don't know about you, but I was like, are they renaming the conference? Is this remember that?
Yeah,
There's like, we're going to be the Allstate Conference. And that when I first saw this, I was like, oh my God, they renamed it the Allstate 12, dude. They really actually did it. And then I saw, Championship Series. So not quite going to the extent that we thought that they might originally, but a big sponsorship deal for the Big 12. So they are going to work with Allstate just in a slightly different capacity. And if you're asking what this means, they use a lot of that like very vague business lingo of like it's a year-round platform, blah, 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 kind of, I don't know what any of it means, but it sounds exciting, sort of a deal. It will serve as the pathway to the Allstate Commissioner's Cup, awarded annually to the Big 12 school that earns the most points through performance in conference championships, graduation rates, academic and student services, and community engagement. So the Allstate Championship Series will be the lead-in to the Cup, which a team will claim, which I want to say, and I don't know, I'll have to check during the break. I didn't follow up on the Sears Cup. I want to say maybe Arizona State would have won that last year, perhaps, or maybe I'm confusing them with another honor that they got from the Big 12. But Brett Yormark saying in the press release, the Allstate Championship Series and the Allstate Commissioner's Cup is a celebration of our student athletes and their success on and off the field. We are proud to team up with Allstate to create something that's never been done before in college athletics, and we look forward to having the Allstate brand integrated into each Big 12 championship. So we're going to see some branding, and I've warned you guys about the TKO factor. I know the Big 12 is not under the umbrella of TKO yet, but they have had cross paths with Endeavor and the same people. And for example, one of the things like, let's rename the conference to the Allstate Conference was one of the ideas that was thrown. Let's go play basketball in Mexico. They're still working on that. Need more details, Garrett, but if it's like a Sears Cup for the Big 12 and it's some branding and you're getting some money off of it, I think this is kind of cool.
I think it is too. And I also would be interested to see, like, do you offer insurance to the players? Do you work out a deal with that where you have something in place, or you say like Allstate becomes the insurance brand for our athletes, in the future? Maybe that's something you could work towards as well. My thing is, okay, if this is going to be the sponsorship for the Olympic sports, what's going to happen with football or basketball? Are we going to see some other company come in and be outsourced to sponsor that? Or how does this progress? That's a couple of things that come to the top of my mind when I saw this come down.
So Sports Business Journal said exact terms of the deal not immediately available. However, agreements believed to be one of the two most significant commercial deals in conference history. The other being, if you'll remember, the PayPal deal that they announced in June. The announcements now come down since this was written up. So there's a little bit of a tease. And this also on the heels of the Barstool partnership that is still very much a fill in the blank as to what that will look like. But the agreement is set to include, as I mentioned, the creation of the Allstate Championship Series, a year-round collab between the league and company that will see points awarded to member schools based on performance in championships, graduation rates, academic, student services, community engagement. The school that accrues the most will get the Allstate Commissioner's Cup, and Allstate will be the presenting sponsor of Olympic sport championships and receive integration across the league's football and men's and women's basketball championships. So that kind of answers some of that for you. So they're going to be all over. But that's a good little light shine on the Olympic sports as well. Throw some sponsorship and a little extra, business their way.
Well, I mean, when all the money's, I think how you're divvying this up now with all the money going to football and basketball, you got to find different ways to generate revenue to help just save these. I mean, until Cody Campbell or whoever comes in and tries to get this Congress to pass everything. So I think it's smart. I think it's more like Brett Yormark being in front of the situation and kind of playing his business mind from that's what it feels like. It's just very big business.
Dude, it could feel really gross if you want it to feel gross. I'm on the verge of, like, depending on where we go, like with the logos and where those are slapped and what everything is called, like had they changed the name of the conference, the Allstate Conference, that might have been one for me to go, guys, I know we love this league, but that's a little bit too far for me. This is cool. It includes all the sports. including the Olympic sports. It's an incentive for the schools to compete against each other in the whole total package, not just sports, but also the academic side. So I actually think that's kind of cool. So, yeah, no word on the details of that, but the Allstate Big 12 collaboration is now out there, and we will see the Allstate Championship Series leading to the Allstate Commissioners Cup. So there you go with that. Meanwhile, some personnel news. Oh, yeah, the games are being played still. Yep, that's right. It's not all just big business for college sports or rules changes or rules updates. UCF, Scott Frost, making it official today. Taven Jackson will start at quarterback when the Knights host North Carolina A&T this Saturday. They had helmet comms issues last week as well, according to this. Hey, whether they did or didn't, I would lean into it because Definitely it did not look good. So, yeah, totally helmet issues. Bunch of helmet issues. They had bad weather, too, the big delay. Was so there was all sorts of stuff going on last week. Scott Frost's big re-debut. But you obviously had Cam Fancher got hurt in that game. Taven Jackson comes in, saves the day at the end, making some plays. Wasn't like he just blew the doors off and you're like, how is he not always starting? Even though I saw plenty of UCF fans who were like, why was he not the starter? Right. What did Cam Fancher do to beat him out? But he did just enough to basically save their hide. And now he is going to be the quarterback heading into this week. So, yeah, there you go. Taven Jackson, now the guy, and we'll see how that works out for UCF. They are 16th out of 16 in my Mojo rankings, even though they won last week. But, man, it was by the hair of their chinny chin. I love Miles Montgomery, but I need to see a lot more from the Knights to get really excited about the results this year.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just they're such a weird program to figure out. I thought they would have a lot more success coming into the Big 12 than they did, and I'm honestly kind of getting West Virginia vibes. Like I thought when West Virginia was coming into the league, they were going to be like one of these programs that took over and were always at the top, and they've kind of just been lost in the middle there, and you're kind of seeing that with UCF. I'm not really sold on this Scott Frost tenure the second time around. I don't really have faith in it. Taven Jackson's a good player. You can win some games with him, but he's not like a top tier quarterback in this league. He has the potential to possibly become that, but I think within their offensive system, you can win some games with them.
Yeah, I think so. I think they can definitely beat North Carolina A&T, and they damn sure better. Damn sure better, or they are never leaving the 16th spot for the foreseeable future. But the thing about this, though, is also if something were to happen to Taven Jackson, no Cam Fancher. He will be out because of the hit last week in the first quarter. So there you go. Taven Jackson starting, and we'll see how he performs. And maybe he's the guy that needs to be the guy that helps them get to maximize their potential. But a little bit of quarterback news for those that were wondering about the latest status there. Meanwhile, so yesterday we had a little bit of a conversation. How did we get into the NIL talk yesterday?
It was, oh my God,
Texas Tech related?
I don't remember if it was Texas Tech or not.
No, I think I just brought up Texas Tech as one of the schools that's spending money. Oh, it was Oregon
the complaint. It was Dan Lanning talking about the roster.
Yeah, it was Oregon and Oklahoma State. Their little tiff, building a little bit of heat heading into their game this weekend. Dan Lanning, Mike Gundy. I don't know. I still haven't heard the exact radio clip, but talking about Oregon's payroll and comparing it, not exactly, but you get the sense that he was like, they're way better off than us. Yeah. And Dan Lanning took offense to that and threw some shots back at Mike Gundy. So it got us to talking about NIL. And we brought up, like, hey, Mike Gundy benefited from T-Boone Pickens when he was around, probably still is to some extent. Yep. So it's not as though Oklahoma State's always been in the poorhouse. And I do think Lanning kind of overreacted a little bit, unless there's just something I'm missing in that missing audio that is like, I'm like, I just don't understand what he could have said.
You know, Gundy can rub people the wrong way.
He very much can. So that's why I'm saying, like, there might be something there that Dan Lanning had a reason to kind of bite back the way that he did. But we were talking about Oklahoma State have a T-Boone, and then I got us talking about Texas Tech's obviously in a very good place. But you point out we didn't even mention BYU, which is crazy because they should be right there along with Texas Tech mentioned as schools that are currently benefiting and stand to benefit even more so in the future because of their backing. And look at this right here. BYU, 5-star quarterback commit Ryder Lyons has signed a NIL deal with Under Armour. That made official today. Now, BYU does not wear Under Armour. So I don't know exactly how that works.
We're seeing that a lot lately.
We are. And that's the era of NIL and player freedom and the ability to sign these sponsorship deals. And I would have loved to have seen a Peter Warwick sign a Nike deal and be on a commercial and sporting some Air Maxes or something. I would have bought them just because, like, holy cow, Peter Warwick at Florida State. Oh, yeah. Like, name a guy from the last, the entire history of college football up until 2 years ago. And it would have been cool to see them doing various sponsorship deals. But it's really unique when it's not like mom and pop stand, or it's not car leasing company. It's like Under Armour, Nike, Adidas. And yeah, the brand's getting heavily involved, not just with the teams, like Adidas making this huge push here of late, signing a couple big-time programs to new deals, but the players as well. So Ryder Lyons, still in high school, but a member of the Under Armour family.
See, that's the one thing that always makes me hesitant is when you have guys, you're giving these deals to unproven players. You know, like I would always be a little, I don't know if I would make that deal, but obviously he's got the potential to make it worth it. But yeah, just kind of looking at this, like BYU in general, man, they're clicking on all cylinders right now, whether it was DeBonza or you get Rob Wright over. It's just crazy to see. But it's also weird that, like you mentioned, the push by Adidas, you don't really hear much about Under Armour in this atmosphere anymore. So for them to kind of get involved, you kind of it makes me think, well, they see, you know, Adidas making a push. Maybe here's our time to get in. And so it's interesting to see where this goes. But good for Ryder Lyons, man. Go get your buddy.
Hey, man, go get your paper, boo-boo. Go get your money. And, yeah, absolutely, very cool for him. He looks like he's got a big personality.
Yeah, he does.
And you know what? It made me think Bear Bachmeier is just a young freshman. So quarterback controversy.
Ooh.
It won't be that, but I'm sure they'll find a way to separate them.
Though.
Yeah, they'll find a way to separate them just enough. But they've got a great problem in that they've got two big money, high profile quarterback type guys to build around for the foreseeable future. Now, so long as you don't handle it Kevin Sumlin style, which I entrust that Kalani Sitake is a smarter man than that. So he will handle it a lot better than Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray back in the day. But yeah, they are loaded for bear, maybe pun intended, for the next few years at quarterback. And Ryder Lyons, I mean, Bear Bachmeier seems like he's got a fun personality, and he's going to be a guy that creates a following, has a lot of NIL deals. But yeah, Ryder Lyons, the big 5-star quarterback commit. So there you go. There's some headlines for you today. We actually have a lot more we can get into, but we got some guests coming up to talk some college football, and that includes Sam Kahn of theathletic.com. So we're at the point now where it's Thursday. We got to start looking ahead. I mean, I'm sure we'll look back a little bit, but yeah, we're heading into week 2, baby. Full steam ahead. We'll get to some more stories from around the college football and sports world, but let's dive into some games a little bit further and hear from our buddy Sam Kahn up next. This is 365 Sports.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Right now at Berg Colgin Ford, we're bringing you an offer that's as big as America. Employee pricing for everyone. You pay what they pay. That means you drive home a new Ford F-150, Bronco Sport, Expedition, Super Duty. From America, for America. Employee pricing for everyone at BK Ford. Looking to sell your vehicle? Get top dollar for yours today. Don't miss out. Employee pricing is available for a limited time. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Experience better at BK Ford.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Got floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back into 365 Sports. Craig, Smoak, Garrett Ross with you today. And a little follow-up real quick before we get to our next guest. We're talking about Ryder Lyons and that Under Armour deal. And I wasn't sure. I had it in my head that the mission that BYU players take is like a year. I had that in my head, but it's actually 2 years. So that's my fault. Now I will for sure know better. So you don't have to worry about the overlap as much as I thought you might have to. And I wasn't sure if he was taking his mission. I should have looked that up before the show, but apparently he is. So he'll be gone for 2 years and then be at BYU in 27. So by that point, sets up fantastic for Kalani Sitake. And who knows how many other 5-star quarterbacks they sign in the next 2 years either. So they could have a whole damn factory ready to go there. But they are set up very well. And to talk the Cougars and all things in college football, joining us on the phone lines now is Sam Kahn, our buddy from theathletic.com. And Sam, the Ryder Lyons signing with Under Armour deal, I'm sure you just heard us talking about how that'll kind of set up BYU moving forward. But how cool is it to just see guys signing with Under Armour, signing some of these big deals for all the hand-wringing about NIL? I think it would have been so cool back in our day when we were younger to see, I mentioned like a Peter Warwick or an Adrian Peterson signing with a Nike or an Adidas. Do you find that cool, or is that just me?
Yeah, no, it is interesting. Could you imagine what kind of apparel deal that Johnny Manziel could have netted when he was at Texas A&M? Like he would have had everybody coming after him. Yeah, you think back. I was actually watching last night before I went to bed. I was watching the 30 for 30 about Marcus Dupree, and you think about when he burst onto the scene. Like, you know, what could some of these guys have made in endorsements or any kind of money that is available to them now? And it's kind of mind-boggling. Tim Tebow, I think about in Florida, you know, Todd Gurley, you know, there's so many who were big-time players. Kyler Murray was well before that time, won a Heisman, you know, so it would be interesting. You know, they would have their preferences, like, you know, and how much would that play into apparel deals at the school and all that stuff. I'm sure that would all be interesting to find out. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool that these guys get to be the face of these deals and get to actually have some personality and be involved in this stuff. They get to do commercials. I know everybody talked about Arch Manning's performance on the field, but he's in commercials. He was in a Warby Parker commercial, and he's doing Red Bull stuff and stuff. It's kind of cool. I like, you know, Quinn Ewers did last year, did the Dr. Pepper commercial. I thought it was pretty funny and pretty cool. So I do appreciate this because it's different than seeing, no offense to the guy, but it's different than seeing Peyton Manning endorse every product known to man, or Shaquille O'Neal to endorse every product known to man. So it's nice to have some spice and variety in the different athletes we have out there now.
Yeah, I mean, think about Vince Young. I mean, the list can go on, but yeah, Vince Young, I mean, and we could name thousands of others, but we hit on a lot of them there, and just very cool. So, yeah, BYU set up really well at quarterback moving forward. It's a Thursday, Sam, so it's kind of time to start looking ahead more than looking back. But I do want to at least touch on last week since we talked so much about going into it. Clearly, there's 1,000 things that you could talk about, but what most stuck with you from week one, good, bad, or otherwise?
I mean, obviously, we alluded to the Arch Manning performance in the opener was probably the biggest thing. I think everybody's watching that. I was tuned in closely on LSU and Clemson, and definitely impressed with the way LSU came in there and won that game. And to me, there was a clear difference between the two quarterbacks. I thought Garrett Nussmeier looked like a pro and looked like a guy who you want in that situation. Kate Klubnik, who we had a lot of hype and expectation for him coming in, didn't look that way. Looked like a little bit skittish and running out of open pockets and sped up in his decision making and just not what you expect. Dabo Swinney touched on that earlier this week, but that was interesting. The way TCU looked on Monday night, I expected them to win. I expected them to cover. I don't know that I expected them to do what they did, which is just absolutely handle North Carolina. And I didn't think coming in that North Carolina's roster was all that great. I know that there's some of the takes that I liked. I like Gio Lopez and Kamori House and a few others, but for most of it, I just didn't love what the roster looked like after there was so much turnover. And TCU's roster, on the other hand, in my opinion, looks as good as it has since 2022. Like this is clearly a roster to me that's more cohesive, faster, more physical than any of the last 2 years worth of teams. Definitely better than the 23 team, definitely better than the 24 team. And now all of a sudden I think you see them as they're absolutely going to be a factor in this conference if that's the way they're going to play every week, because they play with an edge. I think Josh Hoover, the way he delivered the ball, didn't surprise me. We had him really high in our quarterback rankings, but I think the nation got to learn a little bit about Josh Hoover and kind of how talented he is. And when you add the physical run game that they had and the speed they have on the edge, I think they're going to be a really, really impressive team. And the last guy was JKS at California. The true freshman to start and to look that way, I was not sure what to expect from him, but to see him throw the football, my goodness, like that guy, I think he completed his first 9 passes, and he was not off target very much in that game at all. And I am excited to see what Cal looks like the rest of the season, but he is a really good quarterback, and I'm excited to see him as a true freshman grow and sprout.
Yeah, Jaron Kiave Sangapolutele. I've practiced that.
Good job. I'm still working on it. I was trying to work on it the other day, and I'm still getting the hang of it, so I'm not confident enough to say it just yet.
JKS is great. It's perfect for everybody, at least starting out, as we all try to figure out how to put respect on his name, because you're right, man. He was great. Bunch of honors this week, and he makes you look at Cal in a totally different way, I think, moving forward as well.
Yeah, no doubt. It's and so many people, when Devin Brown transferred over there, the former Ohio State quarterback who was battling for the starting job last year, I think a lot of people, including us, assumed that Devin Brown was going to win that job. And so for JKS to win that out of the gate told you what they thought of him. But now then you look at how he played, it's very clear where they are. And now you look at Cal maybe they're a factor in the ACC, because we look at they lost so much in the portal. They lost Jack Injuries. They lost Jaden Knott. They lost some offensive linemen. They lost a lot of guys. But I'll give Ron Rivera and the Justin Wilcox and the coaching staff a lot of credit. Like they're a team that looked way better than Oregon State that night. And I'm intrigued to see how much of a factor it can be in the ACC this year.
So part of the fun of these first couple of weeks is getting all these crossover matchups and league bragging rights and things like that. I think the way I set it up, SEC, even with the 2 big high-profile losses, still pretty much reigns supreme. Big Ten, the big Ohio State win over Texas was the highlight there. Big 12 saved some face. TCU really bailed them out there. With just the Utah win being the other big deal. But we got some more coming up this weekend. ACC had some big wins, but then a bunch of losses. But we get more on that little crossover report card coming up this weekend. How are you feeling about Oklahoma and Michigan? Mateer, great debut. Bryce Underwood, great debut. What are you expecting in this game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. I definitely going to be a test for Michigan, because as good as Bryce Underwood looked, and I thought he looked really sharp against New Mexico, it was against New Mexico. It was a home game. So you're sending a true freshman on the road in a difficult atmosphere for his first start. that is without question going to be a challenge, and against the Brent Venables defense, by the way. So that's going to be its own beast to deal with. But I would definitely give Oklahoma a little bit of the edge. I think they're a little bit more explosive offensively in my mind between these two teams. I think Bryce is going to be a star and he's going to get there, but you're going up against a quarterback and an offensive coordinator who are pretty experienced, pretty salty. And I think this is going to be a game where I think Oklahoma's probably, and I know Michigan's got a really good defense, but I think this is a game where it's going to be a little bit difficult to keep pace with Oklahoma, especially at home. So I think they're about 5.5 point favorites. I kind of like them covering that number. But I do think it's going to be fun to watch Underwood continue to grow and Mateer to see if he can continue to live up to all the preseason hype that preceded him.
I mean, had you watched a lot of him before last Saturday? Because I know a lot of people hadn't. I mean, Oklahoma fans have clearly gone on YouTube before I did with the Earl Campbell Award stuff. I follow all the Texas guys. So I was like, man, this kid out there at Pullman's lighting it up, but they play so damn late. I don't know who's noticing it, but yeah, how well aware were you of him? And obviously you had big expectations, but it seems like at least for 1 week, he's met them.
Yeah. Last season, it was more of like just trying to figure out who he was because it was like, oh, who's the guy that took over for Cam Ward after Cam Ward left? And then you started seeing some of the numbers. I remember they played Texas Tech early, and then, he starts putting up these crazy numbers, and they would be on the CW. And so, I would turn it on every now and then and check it out. And then when we got closer to the end of the season, I started diving in a little bit more because you started hearing, he might get in the portal. He might, especially when Ben Arbuckle moved on and moved to Oklahoma, it's like, oh, well, you figured that was going to be inevitable. So I started diving in a little bit, and I spent a lot of time in the winter watching him. And, we ended up ranking the portal quarterbacks and to rank how good the transfers were. And he was at the top of the list initially for us just because the dual threat ability, like he could fire it in there as a passer, but when he took off, it added a new element. And the other thing that struck me too was they had an offense that was a lot of fun, a lot of fast wide receivers, some good running backs. They had a really good attack last year at Wazoo. And so I was impressed by him a lot. I didn't know how well he's going to transition to SEC, and we're going to have to wait and see what he looks like against those types of defenses. But from a skill standpoint and from an ability standpoint, there's not a lot of questions. I mean, I know he's a guy that was lightly recruited out of Texas high schools, but you see the talent there. I think it's there. I think it's legitimate. And I think the fact that he was able to go with his OC makes it that much smoother of a transition.
Yeah, definitely a very exciting start. And I'm trying to downplay my expectations and not get too excited. It almost kind of bums people like, dude, how excited are you about John Mateer? And I'm like, I'm just the dude that does the opposite, almost like a reverse psychology. But it's going to be hard to contain excitement watching him because he is just so dynamic. You mentioned the SEC there, and without getting into all of their games, the huge storyline last week was Alabama and Kalen DeBoer, obviously. How much are you buying the downfall at this point, Sam, or is this just classic week one overreaction?
I will tell you, I try not to overreact to those instances, but man, it's hard for me to not shake the image of how much more physical and how much more edge Florida State played with on Saturday. And that's what I can't get over, because I do think, and I was high on Alabama coming in because the roster talent is substantial. They have one of the best rosters in the country. But to get handled like that at FSU, it to me is a really rough sign. So they've got a couple of weeks before they play an SEC team. I don't think they don't play Georgia until the end of the month, but they've got a lot of work to do. I will say this: he did show at times the ability to get this team to bounce back. There were times when I think last year you thought, they had a setback and maybe they would be left for dead. I mean, they lost the Vanderbilt game. They came back and beat South Carolina the week after. They lost the Oklahoma game. They came back and beat Auburn the week after. So he has shown Kalen DeBoer has shown a propensity for getting that team off the mat. But to me, just because of the buzz and the noise that happens, because Alabama fans and Alabama donors are not used to this. They are not used to being a team that gets beaten like this. And because it's not Saban, and it's not in Saban we trust because he's not there anymore, they're still very much judging this guy. And so it is even though I I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater with Alabama. I do think these next few weeks are really critical for him because I think in these types of situations in college football, if you don't right the ship quickly, that narrative can just blow you over. It can just really overwhelm you and your program if you don't nip it in the bud. So I think it's really important for them to be crisp and clean. I know they got ULM this week, but they got to come out crisp, clean, and make it easy, make it look academic, handle their business, and then go rolling in a few weeks to Georgia and looking like a much different team.
So for those that don't know, Sam is the Techspert. So he's one of the go-tos when talking Texas college football. And there's a couple of really intriguing games featuring in-state schools this week. Texas State and UTSA. A rivalry that I don't know nationally how much play it really gets, Sam, but G.J. Kinney and Jeff Traylor with a lot of familiarity with one another, obviously former coach and player relationship. But the I-35 rivalry, G.J. Kinney saying in his press conference, he was wondering, like, why is there not – what was it, an ESPN broadcast? Like, this is going to be, hopefully one of the best games in the country. I was like, it's kind of got a good point. I'm looking at the schedule. There's some pretty good games, but I could see where you could make some room for UTSA, Texas State. But how much does this game intrigue you? Do you think it's getting enough love, I guess, where it needs to? And what do you expect out of this matchup this time around? Because last year was a little ugly.
Yeah, I expect it's going to be a lot better than we saw last year. I was shocked at how lopsided last year's match was, but I'm very intrigued just because I thought both teams played well last week. Texas State, I thought, looked pretty sharp against Eastern Michigan and handled them pretty well. Brad Jackson in his starting debut looked sharp. I heard a lot of good stuff about him this offseason, about not just his mobility, but his ability as a passer. I think there's a sense that he is the type of talent that if he goes and kills it this year, there's going to be Power 4 programs circling the waters trying to get him to transfer in the winter. So I'm really intrigued by him. And then Owen McCown, for my money, I think is the best quarterback in the American Athletic Conference. I think definitely one of the better ones in the country. And they gave Texas A&M a lot to handle on Saturday night. And I love the way they ran the football. I love the way they attacked and they played hard. This team definitely started a lot faster this year than they did last year. I thought last year they were so slow out of the gate. First year post Frank Harris, it was just not. It took them a while to get their footing. And this year you can tell they're sharper. They're playing a lot with a lot more edge, a lot more discipline. And so I think this is going to be a fun one. I think the last time they played Alamo Dome, if I remember correctly, they drew well over 40,000. So excited to see if they can push that number even higher and have a really good atmosphere. But I've seen the trash talking on my timeline between UTSA fans and Texas State fans, and I love it. I'm excited for this one because I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was 6 meetings, and it was all UTSA up until last year when 49-10, G.J. Kinney and the Bobcats put it on the Roadrunners there. But yeah, there is some buildup. If you're in the state of Texas, I think Twitter's like putting it on your timeline because so many people are kind of buzzing about it. But that's going to be a lot of fun. Another one in the Lone Star State on the hilltop, SMU and Baylor. The last time these two teams met, SMU was in such a different place. Nowhere would anybody have predicted they'd be an ACC school when those two teams met up again years and years later. And not only that, but fresh off a college football playoff appearance, for goodness sakes. This is a big game just for kind of territory and bragging rights and whatnot. What do you think of the game and the matchup? And how badly do you think Dave Aranda kind of needs this one, Sam? Because I don't know if you're aware of this stat, but Baylor has not won a top 25 game since that 2021 season. And so they're a little bit of a drought here, a big opportunity against the now-ranked Mustangs. But do you see them breaking that streak, or do you think Rhett Lashley and company is going to have more of that Auburn flavor for the Bears?
Yeah, I kind of like this one for Baylor, even though they're on the road, just because I think there's a lot more returning talent for Baylor. And what hurt them last week against Auburn from a run game standpoint, I don't know if I'm there yet on SMU, because Kevin Jennings is not, even though he is a really good athlete, he is not the style of quarterback that Jackson Arnold is. So I don't think you're going to see Kevin Jennings on the zone read or shooting it up the middle off of jet motion like Jackson Arnold was doing with Eric Singleton. I just don't think you're going to see that. That's not Kevin Jennings' game. His game is more, I'm going to throw it downfield or I'm going to scramble to throw. So he is a run threat. He'll get some first downs, but he's not going to be carrying the ball 15 times for 130 yards or whatever it was that Jackson Arnold did. So with that, if the run game is not as much of a threat, I do like Baylor's chance a lot more. Also because I just think offensively this is a really good football team. You saw, I thought Sawyer Robertson. I know there was a little bit rough around the edges, a little bit. For the most part, though, I thought they threw the football really well. You like what you saw from Michael Trigg. You like what you saw from Josh Cameron, the receiving game. I think this is a really talented offensive set of skill players for Baylor, and I think they're going to be able to score with just about anybody they play. And so I think that this one, I think, is not quite a pick 'em. I think SMU's favored by a little bit, but I really think that this is a really good opportunity for Baylor. And I think you're right. From a narrative standpoint, I think it's really important for Dave Aranda and Baylor because they had the good season last year and they turned it around after, kind of being on the brink at the end of 2023. But if you start 0-2, that's not good. And I think it's really important from a narrative standpoint that Baylor rights the ship. But it's going to be a really good, interesting, compelling matchup for two teams who I think are both going to be competing in their conference.
I wasn't going to include this game on the same level of those, but Houston and Rice this weekend. I was more curious about why are they not going to play moving forward? What's kind of the backstory there as to why this Bayou Bucket is wrapping up for those that not following along with those two?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I'll say as someone who's grew up here and, went to versus Houston and I've attended a lot of these games. I love it. I know it's not a really important rivalry in the national landscape, but it is between the FBS schools. It is the closest distance between two rivals in the FBS. They're only about 4 miles apart. And I always had fun going to them. I get the sense part of it is we schedule these things way out in advance, which is silly. And ADs continue to do that even though we shouldn't. But I seem to get the sense that I don't think I've not gotten the sense that Houston really wants to continue it. I get the sense that Rice would like to continue playing it, but for whatever reason, there isn't as much momentum on the Houston side to continue playing it. And I can't say I understand why, because to me, I think you're going to have a G5 on your schedule moving forward if you Houston anyway. Maybe one or two, you have a G5, an FCS, and a Power 4. I don't understand why Rice couldn't be at G5. It doesn't have to be every year. But maybe I would at least make it regular. And the next few years, I think they've got Southern, Georgia Southern, they've got Oregon State, they've got LSU. I think they play Houston in a few years. They've got a random smattering of opponents. Sam Houston's in there somewhere. I think Boise State's in there somewhere. So they've got a lot of those opponents there. But to me, both of these parties have not done a good enough of a job trying to keep it alive. And in this instance, at this current time, it seems to me that Houston is kind of the less motivated of the two to keep it going, which is unfortunate. We saw this happen with TCU and SMU also. TCU, when they're now in the Big 12, and I remember it was like a year or two ago that they said, well, we want to schedule more like a team that makes the playoff or whatever, and they want to have the extra home game. So they're going to take that extra home game. I don't know if that's what plays into it here for Houston. It's very possible it does, but I still don't understand that because even if it's a road game at Rice, it's right down the street and a lot of your fans show up anyway. So I think a lot of it has to do, but some of it I'm sure has to do with gate money and how much bring in for tickets for a game like that. But I hope that they reconsider that and we get this going because this is the last one for at least the next 5 years because I think the non-conference schedule games that Houston has are up through 2031. And the Rice is not on it. So I hope that changes in your future because I really do like this series.
Sam, final thing for you. Not quite as jam-packed of a schedule as last week when you had all of these teams with numbers next to their names playing other teams with numbers next to their names. But there are some intriguing matchups. Michigan, Oklahoma, obviously. We started off talking about that. Illinois, Duke, I'd find intriguing. Cyhawk, obviously, Iowa State and Iowa. Oak State, Oregon. Just Oak State's in a weird spot right now, and you have the talk back and forth, at least spicing that up a little bit this week. Arizona State at Mississippi State, and there's some other games out there. My question is, what game that we have not touched on or talked about of those perhaps, or maybe one that I didn't mention is kind of going to be the game that you're looking forward to most this week?
I'm really interested in Florida and USF on Saturday afternoon because I think Florida's a good team, and we know how difficult their schedule is. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, best young quarterbacks in the country in DJ Lagway. But USF, on their opener against Boise State, absolutely handled the Broncos. And what impressed me most about them was how fast that roster is. Like, there is speed all over the field on that roster. And I had, done some reporting earlier this month, asking around about roster budgets in the American Athletic Conference. And USF is up there. From what I understand, the class of that conference with a football roster budget in the 8 to 10 million range, which is well above what most G5s have. And they are trying to compete at a high level. And so I had heard that this off season. And then when I watched them play on last Thursday, I was like, oh, yeah, they did do a good job with their roster because there are dudes all over the place. And, Byron Brown made his return to the lineup, talented quarterback. He's redone his throwing motions, a little funky, but he's also a good runner. And so he made some plays for him. So that's one. And again, those in-state battles, when you get an in-state G5 against the Power 4 program, there's always a little bit of extra spice to those because there's that underdog mentality and the G5 team really wants to knock them off. And the Power 4 program thinks they're above, the G5 program and all that stuff. So there's a lot of dynamics in those types of in-state games. So that's one that I had circled on for Saturday that I'm really intrigued to watch, just because if USF hangs around, not really great for Billy Napier, but I think USF is good enough to hang around with them for a little while.
Hey, man, as always, we greatly appreciate your time. I understand how busy this time of year especially is, so thanks for taking a good chunk out to spend with us and talk some college football. You can find him at SCon Jr. on Twitter and, of course, on theathletic.com as well. Sam, talk to you in a few days, man. Enjoy the weekend, and appreciate you as always.
Thanks so much. Take care. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot. There's Sam Kahn of The Athletic with us in his usual spot, Thursdays at 3:30. We've got on the other side Max Olsen of ESPN.com, former tag team partners. Max making the jump over to ESPN this offseason, but good buddies and great back-to-back to have there. And so get to touch on a little regionality there. And I did read in the UH and Rice conversation, that did very much seem like it was a UH decision to not play that game anymore for the reasons that Sam mentioned, like wanting to maybe schedule some other opponents. But for those that love the regional stuff, like it can come back. It's not gone forever. It's just going to be 4 or 5 years before they play again.
No, but it really sucks, man. And I think I love how Rice is dropping the baby blues this week. They're going to come out with the baby blue uniforms, so repping for the H. I love that. But to me, you've got to keep these games going. You've got to find a way to do it. Like you're looking ahead, and we might touch on this later, but like Baylor scheduling and Cardinal Word down the road. If you're going to schedule an FCS opponent, or you're going to schedule down, in my opinion, schedule an in-state team and give your money to them and keep it in-state and help them rise. That's just kind of how I view it. Not everybody might agree with that, but in this particular, these battles, keep this going. It's like you mentioned, it's 4 miles down the road.
Yeah.
Like, why are we not playing this game?
I mean, you can jump on a bike and be at the other campus in no time. Yeah, it's crazy that you wouldn't play that close together. And especially when it's not like, I get Houston wanting to pursue bigger things, but it's not like they're going to be able to line up Alabama on the schedule. And, and certainly Rice will find some opponents, but are they going to be as interesting as playing UH and bragging rights over Oiler Blue or Baby Blue or something along those lines? But let me take a look. He did mention the Houston football schedule there, and I wanted to take a look ahead. So next year, Oregon State, also have Oregon State this year, but back-to-back there with them. LSU in 27 in Houston.
Ooh.
Go ahead and buy your tickets now.
Be there.
LSU was just in Houston this past December, beating Baylor in what turned out to be a hell of a bowl game when all was said and done, but looked like it was going to be an LSU blowout there for a while. So they play LSU. The same year they played Prairie View. so they'll go LSU to Prairie View. That'll be some hellified band action, though. Man. I know that much. That'll be exciting games from that standpoint. UNLV and OU in 28 for Houston, and then in 30 and 31, Boise State home and away. So, they got some teams lined up. But this will be the last Rice matchup for the foreseeable future. The Bayou Bucket will be on standby. And so whoever wins it this weekend will be able to hold on to it for a little while. All right, we got more to talk about, more to get into, and more coming your way. Stay tuned. Max Olsen, ESPN.com, talking college football's big weekend number 2. That's next. This is 365 Sports.
Tailgate time, or just enjoy great food and You can get that at Waco Custom Marketplace, Lake Air Drive in Waco. All the way through Saturday, they've got ribeye steaks on sale. The select ribeye, $15.50 a pound. Choice ribeye, $18.99 a pound. And prime ribeye steak at $27.50 a pound. Bacon ends and pieces, ring bologna, and hot dogs at $4.05 a pound. Chicken tenders at $2.99 a pound. They've got a big bag, and they're delicious. 6-pack of jalapeno cream cheese poppers at $7.25 a pack. And also jalapeno shrimp and cream cheese poppers at $11.25 a pack. That's a 6-pack. 20% off on day-old kolaches. You know what they have. Full-service butcher shop with the great lobster tank when you walk in, the live lobsters, seafood, pork, poultry, and all of what they have with steaks to hamburgers and more in the back. Full-service bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches every day. Marinades, seasoning, tri-tip, brisket. You want it, you got it. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Allen Samuels in Waco, your Central Texas commercial headquarters. Get a new Ram 2500 Crew Cab starting at just $43,990. Don't miss the savings during the Make This the Summer event. Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back in. We are now joined by Max Olsen of ESPN.com here on 365 Sports. Weekly visit with one of our favorites out there reporting and covering the game of college football. And Max, we do appreciate your time. I'm not solo. I got Garrett and Andrew and Brandon with me, but it is just basically me today as far as the conversation goes, just so you're aware. But man, some Fresh transfer portal news dropping here in the last couple of hours. Some updates on the NCAA FBS Oversight Committee recommending a move to January 2nd to start a portal window and eliminating the spring window. You've got reporting on that over on ESPN.com. I know it's not finalized, but your thoughts on this, and what, for the people out there that maybe aren't paying close attention, is the good, the bad, and I guess kind of the overall thoughts on this move by those leaders in college athletics.
Yeah, good timing for our call this week. I just wrapped up that story. Look, the going to a January transfer window, that's something that has been kind of teased here really since the start of the year when the coaches got together at the AFCA convention, and that was their preference. And I've talked to GMs who kind of say, like, look, we're not saying it's the perfect solution, but it's like maybe the solution everybody can kind of like agree on or get behind. And so what the coaches wanted is it may be what they get, and that is a 10-day transfer window in January, right after the CFP quarterfinals are completed, I believe. And certainly back then they were frustrated about Bo Prabula going in the portal, leaving Penn State. You got Preston Stone leaving SMU. These situations where playoff teams were losing players to the portal while the season was still going on. And certainly we're seeing the impact that has on bowl games too. So I think, the coaches have always wanted to eliminate the spring window. And I think they've always been frustrated by the December window with the way that collides with, conference title games, playoff games, coaching changes, high school signing day, all that stuff. So I think we are probably heading in the direction here of just the January portal and no spring portal, although there may be lawsuits that maybe undo some of that stuff. We shall see. But ultimately, that's just going to mean a really crazy few weeks of transfer moves in January. And, that's it. But you're taking it from 30 days out of the year to 10. So, I mean, it's just, you're going to have thousands and thousands of players entering the portal every day. And it's going to be nuts. But I think that coaches wanted to move this later, past the bowl games so that they, more of them could finish out their season with their team.
And of course it's not perfect, but there is this thing called school that starts, and so they can't just do this whenever they want. And that is the big,
and every school's different, Craig. I mean, that's an important distinction in this stuff, is that you say January 2nd. It's like, okay, well, there's some time there for guys to, make decisions. Yes. There's not a lot of time for guys to take official visits and go to 5 schools and then make a decision. Like I think in a lot of cases, you're going to be guys are going to take one trip and lock it in. And so, because every school's got a different timing and for a different deadline in terms of being enrolled in school. So there's a lot of decisions that are going to happen in a very short period of time. And yeah, you're going to have players that aren't able to take a few weekend visits here, and really you're going to have to kind of rush these recruitments a little bit.
Have you already cleared your calendar in January in anticipation of this, or did you kind of figure you'd have to do that anyways?
Look, my wife and children are thrilled when they find out about this. That's my prediction. Like, that's, not having to worry about the portal as much during Christmas and stuff, theoretically, sounds nice. Man, for me personally, like covering all that stuff last December and then flying down to Atlanta to cover Texas Arizona State, I was like, I cannot even focus on this game I'm supposed to be covering, this incredible game, like this game of the year game, because I'm just so exhausted from the portal. So yeah, it's I think there's, in some ways, January is healthier. I think there's going to be some challenges with it, some problems, obviously. Look, the eliminating spring window is a different conversation, and I think a pretty interesting one. I think coaches have been frustrated that there's 2 free agency periods, and they're frustrated about the leverage that players and their agents have during that time to say, like, yes, we agreed to a deal in December or January, but like, we're going to need a little bit more money now, or we're going to go back in the portal. Like, I think that's very frustrating to folks. But at the same time, coaches have also used that period to get rid of players and to have some roster turnover and to go get those final pieces they think they need for their roster. And so, to confine that all to January, unless guys are just breaking breaking the rules and the stuff and going in the portal whenever they want, like ultimately, or transferring whenever they want. Like, I think ultimately, there's some pros and cons to getting rid of the April window.
So I do want to talk about some games with you, but it's perfect timing, as you said, to have you on today with that news drop. And especially in light of just some of the comments around college football this past week. I noticed on your timeline, you said one of the funniest quotes of the season in regards to A.J. McCarron talking about teams having 40 to 50 million in NIL and Bama has less than 20. And you said, again, one of the funniest quotes of the season. You've got Mike Gundy and Dan Lanning's back and forth on, who has money and who doesn't. Just have you had a few chuckles this week looking at some of this? And why was that A.J. McCarron quote one of the funniest of the season?
Well, I mean, I got a lot of texts from people about that who were just like pretty amused and outraged at the idea of like Alabama losing one game and saying like, well, we've got less money than other people. I mean, they've got one of the like 5 most talented rosters in the country based on, recruiting rankings and all that kind of stuff. This whole boogeyman that there are schools that have 40 to 50 million dollar rosters out there. You've heard it repeated a few times. It's just not true. There's nobody up at 40 plus this year. There are some teams that are probably 25 to 30, no doubt, but to act like a school like Alabama is at a serious disadvantage compared to other contenders is pretty laughable. And that's just based on my reporting and covering this stuff. But I think you see the Gundy and Lanning stuff too. And look, I know where Gundy's coming from. Like, I think when you face some of these programs that are at a much different place than you are, there is a little bit of that envy or a little bit of that, like, sometimes it feels like we're not playing the same sport with some of this stuff. But certainly a G5 coach would say that about Mike Gundy, right? That's just that is just kind of the food chain of this stuff. And also, I think we are still just in the process of learning how to talk about the money piece of this, because that's always been so secretive during this NIL era. And now schools are paying the money, and it's a little bit more out there. And I think people still struggle to like talk about that or still kind of have these assumptions about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is funny to see like one graphics flashing like we just spent all this, and then the next minute you mention it and you're like, what? Why are you talking about? It's just it's weird how people kind of react off and on to the money talk. But it's a Thursday, so we've already.
Do you think after you lose a game though, Craig? Like, do you think after you lose a game, do you think your fan base wants to hear in a press conference or like, does anybody want to hear like, well, we just have less money, so just deal with it?
Absolutely freaking not. And the top of the list.
There's no way.
Top of the list is Alabama fans that don't hear that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer or his folks would ever say that, but like, certainly I think that I get the annoyance sometimes of that stuff, but man, this is a year where everybody's supposed to be paying 15 plus. Like, it's supposed to be a little bit more level this year than other years. I don't think people want to hear that as a post-game excuse.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And it's interesting to see how coaches are going to kind of handle when to say something and when to not say something. And we've already gotten a couple examples of this week of like just kind of how people react to that sort of thing these days. It's very interesting. All right. Before we look ahead a little bit, and I know you don't have much time here, so I want to at least look back to last week. We didn't get a chance to talk to you about Nebraska and Cincinnati. And T Swift's there, the Kelseys are there, and all of that. But I always like to ask you about the Huskers because we're all college football fans at the end of the day. And were you encouraged? Were you discouraged? How did you feel about Cincinnati having a chance to go down and make that very interesting at the end of that game before a timely interception?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've watched enough Nebraska football games over the last decade, you were pretty confident that Brendan Sorsby was going to score a touchdown and win the game there at the end of the game. Like, I think it's there's a lot of nail biting for Nebraska fans, and that's not. I'm not saying that's on Matt Rule. It's just kind of folks have been kind of conditioned that way from the Frost era and the Riley era and all that. And I thought it was encouraging the way that Malcolm Hartzog came back and made that play to win the game. Great play. I think offensively it looked like Nebraska was still kind of finding its rhythm a little bit. Defensively, like definitely room to improve, but I think it's a pretty classic week one game or early week one game of just like, we just got to find a way to survive this. I think Cincinnati looked solid. I think there were some things I liked from them. I don't think that they're going to be at the bottom of the Big 12 this year. But I think for Nebraska, like they are still just trying to scratch and claw and find ways to win close games. And so, getting one done by any margin, by any means, like that's I think probably still a victory for Matt Rule and his squad.
Definitely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a loss like the last several years. So the fact that they just managed to not let that one go. That's a step forward. How big of a step forward? Well, that remains to be seen. So we've got Oklahoma, Michigan as the big headliner this week. Just where's your head after what you saw last week? What's coming up this week? We'll end it with this. Where's your head on just what stood out to you? What is kind of top of mind for you with what we've seen and what we're expecting now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Michigan Oklahoma is going to be tremendous. I think Brent Venables has got to be licking his lips about all the stuff he's going to throw at a freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood, just like we saw from Matt Patricia last week against Arch Manning, right? Of like, all right, this guy's young, he hasn't seen this stuff. We're going to come up with some stuff that is going to confuse him, that's going to slow him down, and you certainly saw that with Hurts last week. Like, if you can kind of slow down the processing and guy doesn't know where to go with the ball, like you can make things a lot easier on defense. And so it's just see what Venables has for Bryce Underwood. I think he's unbelievably talented, and I think he's going to be a star very quickly. I liked what I saw from John Mateer in the opener. He missed some throws, but he also had a career high in terms of 30 completions in that game. And, I think the receiving core looks decent. That was a question mark for me. So I think Oklahoma's going to be able to move the ball in Michigan. I think that's going to be an excellent game. Really fired up for Cyhawk, fired up for Kansas, Missouri. I think there's some big games, certainly for the Big 12 in terms of that, how the conference is perceived. Like, those are not like I know Cyhawk is the big noon game, but like, I think those are, every time you get to play one of those, it's a big deal in terms of how the world and the committee and all that stuff views the strength of your conference. So, I like Iowa State to get it done. They have not won back-to-back games against Iowa since 2012. So that would be a pretty huge accomplishment. It's never happened under Matt Campbell. That would be a huge accomplishment for a team that I think is looking like one of the best in the conference. And, for KU, obviously massive as well if they can pull that off.
Yeah, love the fact that the war is back between Kansas and Missouri. Long time coming. And, Iowa State, they win this weekend. I mean, they're in a very strong position moving forward. Max, I know time is precious, man, and you're very busy. Thanks so much for taking a little bit out for us. Find him at Max_Olsen on Twitter. You can find his articles on ESPN.com and here with us usually on Thursdays throughout the season. Thanks so much, man. Have a great weekend.
Hey, always a pleasure. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks a lot. Max Olsen, longtime friend of the show, and great to have him on. Normally, you guys know me. I don't love – in the offseason, I understand it. I mean, we've got a lot of time to ramp up towards the season, and there's things that matter to this game that make this game better or worse, like rules changes and the guidelines to how things go and operate in the NIL spaces and all of that. It is interesting. It's just that after a while, it can you become numb to all of the news and all of the NIL and just the madness of it all. But that also pertains to the transfer portal, and he covers the transfer portal, as does Sam Kahn, as well as anybody. So cool to get Max on right as that story dropped earlier today. Get a few thoughts on his take with the transfer portal window there in January. That looks like it's probably going to pass here in the next few weeks when they have that vote to make it official. So thanks to Max Olsen as always. And yeah, man, I'm very much looking forward to Cyhawk. I think that's a huge opportunity for the Cyclones to, just be 3-0. You'd have a win on Farmageddon and Cyhawk, 2 of your first 3 games. Are you kidding me? Like, could you draw it up any better than that? Is there another rival that I'm not thinking of that you could have in week 4 that would really can we get Nebraska on the schedule or something to try and throw them in here while the Cyclones are on a hot streak? And then Kansas, Missouri. Picked Missouri yesterday, but I would not be shocked whatsoever to see Kansas win that football game. You never know. Just throw out the rules when the heated rivals get together, and that's as heated as it gets. And it's been a long time getting back to that game. So love what I've seen from Jalen Daniels and the Jayhawks so far, that defense. But I really liked what I saw from Bo Perbula in the Missouri game last week as well. So that one's definitely got a little bit of a spice factor to it. We'd have to do like a spice ranking on the games each week, like almost like hot ones of what's like the atom bomb level type game, which would have been Ohio State, Texas last week. That'd be Oklahoma, Michigan this week. And it was like a little mild, like a little starter palate, but not quite as spicy this week as last week. But that doesn't mean there might not be better games because it's football. Roll it out there and see what happens. So we'll take a break right here. We've got a little bit of talk time, and then we'll have Mike Craven of Dave Campbell's Texas Football join us in a little while. Before we go, though, shout out to chat. I'm not really able to pay much attention, and I normally don't pay a lot of attention anyways because I'm just easily distracted, and I don't want to get into a skirmish in there. But shout out to you if you're with us right now, live or after the fact. We are not here without your support, so thank you. And I'm sure I don't even have to – you guys take care of yourselves over there in the chat room, but I did want to acknowledge everybody that's watching and listening right now. Shout out to you. Appreciate you being a part of the festivities here. We got more to come. This is 365 Sports.
I received the note from Joshua that Don Humidor and Coffee Beans off of Valley Mills in Waco. Man, what a month they're having. They're doing a giveaway this month at the shop. Outcast Cigars swag. For each Outcast cigar you buy, you get 1 entry into the giveaway. For each box you buy, you get 15 entries. The giveaway will be announced on September 16th at 2 o'clock at their social media outlets. They're also having an event in October, on October the 9th, featuring Epic Cigars. And here's the Outcast Cigar Raffle. September 2nd through September 16th, winner announced on the 16th at 2 o'clock. Outcast Cigars, you get 1 ticket. A box, you get 15. Items that can be won during the drawing: an Outcast ashtray, an Outcast lighter and cutter combo, 2 Outcast stickers, and an Outcast t-shirt. So go by Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, Joshua Cheyenne, inside the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and also Richland Drive in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Just shout it out in chat rolling into the break. Yes, thank you to Rudy's for being the title sponsor of our chat room. Shout out once again. As we continue to roll along here, got Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, that'll join us in just a few minutes. But let's get back to some of the headlines, some of the stories from today. And we knew it was a monster weekend with the matchups on paper and then the games themselves. Many of those turned out to be pretty entertaining. You had the high of a but LSU, Clemson, but especially a Miami and Notre Dame. You had the low, as far as entertainment value, excitement level of an Ohio State, Texas that for a lot of people turned out to be a rather boring game, especially with the buildup. But what did that look like? How many people were watching? Television ratings are here, and this will be a weekly occurrence that we talk about to some extent, but 3 games with 10 million plus viewers. Now, this is ESPN bragging on itself, of course, and I don't blame them for doing so, especially when they've got some monster ratings like the ones they get to brag about this week. But ABC and ESPN had a very nice day, as you see right there. 3 games with 10 million viewers, 8.6 across ABC's 4 games, 4 million across ESPN Network. And we'd already mentioned College Game Day. Clearly, with Corso's send-off, that was going to be a big number for that show. It was the biggest they've ever had. 4 million viewers tuning in for Lee Corso. Wonder what that looks like now when they get back to normal. And he is not a part of the featured cast anymore. But there you see some of the ABC ESPN numbers. But you don't see the actual biggest game just yet. Leave that up, Brandon, so we'll return to it. But the actual biggest game of the weekend in terms of audience overall across any network was, what do you think? Yeah, Texas, Ohio State on Fox. 16.6 million viewers for Texas and Ohio State. So a massive number for Longhorns and Buckeyes, even though it wasn't the most entertaining game in the world, mind you. And then pulling up number 2 was Notre Dame and Miami. 10.8 million viewers for the big matchup between the Canes and the Irish. And what a nice win for Carson Beck and company. Then you had 10.7 million Alabama, Florida State, even though it was a blowout, or at least like on the scoreboard, it didn't always indicate that, but the game sure as hell felt that way for a large part of it. And it was in some ways a blowout, but 10.7 million people got to watch the big performance by Tommy Castellanos and his Knowles teammates against this Alabama program that has people just losing their minds over in Tuscaloosa and elsewhere. LSU Clemson pulling up in 4th, 10.4 million on ABC for that game, the big Saturday prime timer. And then you had TCU and North Carolina, Big 12 school, ACC school, not necessarily the big brands like you see in all of these other games, but 2 teams that had a pretty nice audience, TCU and North Carolina, 5th best on the weekend, 6.1 million. So a pretty drastic drop-off from the 10.4 to the 6.1. But between Texas, Ohio State, and then the 3 top games that you see there, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, FSU, LSU, Clemson, 4 broadcasts with over 10 million viewers watching on college football's opening weekend. So I am very curious of what an Oklahoma-Michigan number looks like this weekend. If it's a game stylistically, which I can't imagine how it would be, but if it's like Ohio State, Texas, does that hinder the number at all? Or is the fact that maybe Oklahoma is not quite as big as an Ohio State and Texas hinder it? Or they blow right past it because, hell, it's Oklahoma and Michigan, and these are 2 massive brands with a big game between the 2 that we don't get to see all that often. So, yeah, Oklahoma, Michigan this week will be a very interesting number to see. Elsewhere, Virginia Tech, South Carolina, you see on there 5.5 million nearly. Georgia Tech, Colorado, nice number for the Buffaloes and Dion as they still pull in an audience, 3.7 million for that one. And then Cincinnati, also out of the Big 12, and Nebraska, a large part of this audience, of course, pulling up in that final spot there, 3.3 million viewers. And Auburn, Baylor, 2.8 million viewers over on Fox. So that's why you don't see it listed on this particular graphic, but that's a very healthy number. And a few other games, Syracuse, Tennessee, 2.6 million. So point being, I'm not a TV executive, but I do think it's cool to see who was watching what and what those audiences look like. So massive number for Ohio State, Texas, but also just a really good weekend, especially for Fox and ABC/ESPN as you would expect. But massive games, and we'll see how that looks. It's a little bit of a tampered down schedule this week, but still plenty of interesting storylines. And some of those storylines let's talk about right now. Mike Craven of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, who joins the show. And Mike, as always, appreciate your time. No, there's not a lot of free time right now, so thanks for the few minutes that you can give us here. And I was just talking about some TV ratings and mentioned Baylor and Auburn. Let's start there, man. Let's go back to last Friday night. I've thrown this out there a few times this week, but it's been since the 2021 season that Dave Aranda and company have won a ranked game. They've got that opportunity against SMU this week, an SMU team in a much different place than when these two teams last met several years ago. What was your thoughts on what you saw last weekend, but do you have a concern level building for Dave Aranda and Baylor based off of last weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always concerning to me when the side of the ball your head coach is, an expert in is bad. If I was a Texas fan and Steve Sarkisian's offense was bad consistently, I'd be worried about it. If I was an A&M fan and Mike Elko's defense was consistently bad for years, I'd be worried about it. And 4 of the 5 years that Dave Aranda has been the head coach at Baylor, they've been 60th or worse in scoring defense. Last year they took a step forward, but it was to 81st in the nation in scoring defense. And so, you go through an off season with a bunch of hype. You have a big game early on a Friday night to make a statement, not only for your school, but for the conference that you're in. And you give up 309 yards rushing, and so I don't know how you couldn't have a concern. It doesn't mean the season's doomed, but I don't know how you could not watch that game against Auburn and not be worried about it, because every opponent they're going to face from here on out is going to press that button and see if they can stop the run. And what would worry me the most is it looked like Aranda knew it, that he knew the run game was going to be an issue, but he was so worried about the secondary that he just stayed in quarters and in cover 2. It's not a great sign.
What do you think about the matchup with SMU? For some reason, I've just got a weird feeling like I'm leaning Baylor, and I'm not a guy who, I pick off a gut feel, and I've picked against them a lot. I picked against them last weekend and turned out right about that. But for some reason, I just think they kind of get it together against SMU. Do you share that feeling, or do you think this is a pony's victory waiting in the wings here?
I think I'm going to lean SMU -3, but it wouldn't surprise me if Baylor came out and won. I've been high on Baylor all off season. I think a lot of times we overreact to week 1, and that's typically not the smartest thing to do. The good news for the Bears is I don't think SMU can attack them in the same way. I don't think they can line up and have 3, future NFL offensive linemen and just bully the Bears in the trenches. I think this is a lot more even matchup. Last week to me, it just felt like an SEC team, kind of proving that the SEC in a lot of ways just has different body types than these other conferences. SMU and Baylor are going to look the same on the sidelines. They're going to have a lot of the same body types. There's not going to be a mismatch between the offensive line, the defensive line, or vice versa. I think that is good for Baylor. I think they're kind of mirror image teams. Both offenses really good, big question marks for both defenses. I do think it's an advantage for Baylor to have already been tested. SMU played East Texas A&M last week, had 3 turnovers, just kind of was sloppy through that football game. This will be the first time that they've really been tested. Baylor has already seen it and, has already kind of gone through a week where everybody's feeling bad about themselves. I think they'll be motivated, and would not shock me at all to go and win this game. I think it's a pretty even matchup.
TCU with a massive win, just in perception and audience that was following along, not for them necessarily, but for the coach on the other sideline, and just a complete destruction of Bill Belichick in North Carolina on Monday night. I think a lot of people were high on the Frogs. Many mentioned them as sleeper picks, but just kind of what did you see from TCU, and how confident are you in them moving forward, just kind of in the big picture? And do you think that enough people are talking about them, or is there still too much talk about North Carolina, or is it just an overreaction to put too much weight on anything in week number 1?
I do think that game against North Carolina was a bigger indicator of North Carolina being bad than TCU being good. Now, that doesn't mean TCU won't be good or isn't good. They might be. I just don't know if we know any more about that. I think we do know that North Carolina isn't good. I had always thought all offseason that the Frogs were undervalued. I think we've talked about it on this show. They're over their team total was 6.5. I was telling everybody, bet the farm on the over. I had to talk to my wife and get a clearance to bet a big enough price on the over under when I was in Vegas this summer, because it just didn't line up to me. That offense is really good. Josh Hoover is, in my opinion, the most underrated offensive player, most underrated quarterback in the country, a very good football player. Kendall Briles, Sonny Dykes always score a lot of points offensively. It was going to come down to if they could run the ball and if they could play some defense. I think Andy Avalos is a really good defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinators will tell you all the time that year 2, you take this huge jump because you're not reacting or you're not thinking as much. You just start going and playing instinctually. I think they looked really good after that first drive. And Kavorian Barnes, the UTSA transfer at running back, had a heck of a day. Maybe that's just North Carolina being really bad defensively. But if they have some semblance of balance, which they did not have last year, that's going to make that passing game even better. I think TCU is going to win 8 or 9 games and be in the mix to play for the Big 12 championship come October and November.
So you had a lot of writing this week. People can check out over at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, the big rivalry game, Texas State and UTSA. Talked a little bit about this with Sam Kahn earlier. Last year, not very entertaining. GJ got the better of his old head coach there, but it seems like maybe it's just the region we're in that Twitter's feeding me a lot of stuff, but I also follow, people from both sides. There's a lot of talk going back and forth coming across my timeline. What's your anticipation level for this game? And do you expect, I think, obviously a drastically different result from last year, but how competitive and how entertaining do you expect this game to be?
Well, to speak on the entertainment factor, there is not a higher team total or a win game total this week in Vegas. Like the 65.5 over under total for this game is higher than any other game in week 2 in college football. So it is going to be pointsy. There's going to be a lot of points scored. Both defenses not very good. Both offenses very good. And so that will be a lot of fun. I think it's the most underrated rivalry in the state. Obviously it doesn't have like the 100 years of history that some of the other ones do, but the fan bases truly dislike each other, like in a real way. The Alamo Dome parking lot before the game, there will be arrests. There will be arrests inside the stadium. There'll be arrests after the game. Like it is like a soccer hooligan type situation that goes on between these two fan bases. And so that makes it a lot of fun. And then there's a layer with the head coaches that are kind of the opposite of that, right? Like Jeff Traylor coached G.J. Kinney in high school. Those two are about as close as you can find in the coaching profession. Traylor helped Kinney get the job at Texas State. Kinney was in Jordan Traylor's wedding. And so it's this kind of dichotomy of the fan bases hate each other and they want nothing more than to win. The head coaches love each other and hate coaching against each other. And that makes this into a weird game. But with Texas State moving into the Pac-12 and them finally getting their act together from an alignment standpoint, from the president to the athletic director, I think this is one of those budding G5 rivalries, and that level needs more of this type of stuff. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to be at that game.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to get primed for that again, go and check out some of Mike's coverage of that game and the build up to it. But yeah, that's looking very, very spicy this weekend, that matchup. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out on the other side. I want to acknowledge because Texas Tech looked really good and handled their business, even though Baron Morton got dinged up, and we'll see there. Houston handled their business. A lot of others just kind of handled their business. Texas obviously didn't, but no shame in losing to a team like Ohio State on the road by a touchdown. What did you make of Texas A&M? I think we'll talk a lot more about them next week, obviously with the Notre Dame game coming up. But what were your thoughts on some of the splashes on offense and what you saw from Mike Elko and company?
Yeah, instant return on investment at the wide receiver transfer position. And a lot of the talk all offseason is Marcel Reed going to take a step forward as a passer? Are they going to get better going vertically downfield? But one way to help take that next step is to surround him with really good playmakers. Casey Concepcion had a 80-yard punt return, 3 catches for 70-plus yards and a touchdown. Mario Craver went over 130 yards and had a couple touchdowns through the air. So if they're able to make those type of plays, the A&M offense is going to be able to run the football. I think that, that's a good sign for Colin Klein. It could be a little bit of a wolf ticket situation, though, because the UTSA secondary is about as bad as it gets. Like, they were 121st in pass defense last year. I don't think they're going to be much better than this year, or better this year. So I don't know if that was a mirage, if that was just a UTSA thing, or if this A&M offense is going to be more balanced. The concern, though, is the run defense. Like, UTSA, I think Robert Henry Jr. had like 176 yards on the ground. That's not going to fly, especially in a week and a half when they play Notre Dame with a really good offensive line and a really good running back.
Yeah, and going back to UTSA and Texas State, we can't have a Houston Rice situation, right, Mike? I mean, I was talking about that a little bit earlier, of the fact they're not going to play for at least the foreseeable future. Maybe they tangle again down the line, but we got to make sure Texas State and UTSA, all of a sudden, Texas State doesn't get too big for their britches going off to the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think both universities, specifically both presidents, understand the value of this. And look, it's the most attended game for both schools. Like UTSA versus Texas State in the Alamo Dome in 2023 drew more fans than when UTSA played 2 home games in conference championships, right? Like the fan bases care. I think the presidents understand that. Both of them understand the value of athletics. I think for the Houston-Rice situation, it's one where one school has outgrown the other one, or at least in terms of how they feel about it. You know, I don't think Houston sees a bunch of value in playing against Rice. If you beat Rice, no one cares. If you lose to Rice like a couple years ago, you can lose your job. Ask Dana Holgerson. I think UTSA and Texas State are on the same plane. I don't think the Pac-12 is any more than a G5 conference. I think it's a G6 conference. I think it's right there with the American on what the best G6 conference will be. But I think since they're such peers, they're so close, and you know their athletic budgets are going to be pretty much the same, and their history is about the same. I don't see one pretending to be the big brother of the other one and having the superiority complex, and that's why we're losing a lot of these games, right? Like Texas and Texas A&M, they didn't want to give the other one any ammunition. SMU, TCU, the same. I think UTSA and Texas State kind of understand that they're in the same boat and they need each other because it's not like they're selling out their stadiums every single week.
So based on what I learned last weekend, Arch Manning sucks. Alabama sucks now, which has been very humorous to watch this week. LSU is going to win the national title, so on and so forth. What were your, I guess, biggest hot takes or hot takeaways or just things that you enjoyed the most from just opening weekend, given how long we wait for it to finally get here? And then it's just like head on a swivel. What did you enjoy most last weekend?
I do think the Alabama loss is something to monitor. I mean, they're 4-4 in their last 8 against, Power 4 teams. He's lost 4 games he's favored in, which I think Saban did the whole time. The longer I do this job, the more I realize how important alignment and just cultural fit matters, personality fit matters in this job. Like, I don't know if Pete Carroll would have had success at Alabama or if Nick Saban would have had success at USC. I don't think Mike Elko would fit very well at Texas, just like I don't think Steve Sarkisian would fit very well at Texas A&M. I'm just wondering if DeBoer is right for Alabama. For as much as we talk about Alabama being kind of the class of college football, it's really been 2 coaches, and they've been kind of tyrants. And I say that complimentary. Bear Bryant, Nick Saban. Like, I just wonder in the Deep South, in a place like Alabama, if that's the type of general you have to be a head coach, and DeBoer wins more at a Washington or one of the Florida schools or Oregon or something like that. I think personality fit matters more than we talk about, and I'm just not sure his does. And so to watch Alabama this year, I think is going to be fascinating because it seems like the type of program that will pull that plug if they need to, even if the buyout is huge.
Hey, man, good stuff as always. Again, go check out Dave Campbell's Texas Football for all things Texas football, but get read up on Texas State and UTSA, one of the bigger games, certainly in this state, and really I think one of the more entertaining possible games in the entire country this weekend. Mike, appreciate your time as always, man. Know you're very busy, so thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Appreciate you, guys.
Thanks a lot. There's Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, touching on a little bit of everything around the state and even a little bit of big picture stuff there at the end. And they do a great job. Brad Jackson, very good last week for Texas State. And UTSA did about what you expected against Texas A&M. And much like when they play Texas, of going to be really tough in the beginning, but eventually just talent and size and pedigree and all that's going to win out. But you line them up against a similar talented foe in a Texas State, and the familiarity between the coaches. And we talked about a lot of this last year, and it didn't turn out to be a very good game. But I think clearly you could tell if you've been listening throughout this show that there's a feeling this is going to be pretty fun and pretty high scoring. And I'm all for that because there are certain weekends, even when you have the big matchups, they don't quite turn out to be exactly what you'd hoped for or expected. But this one is shaping up to maybe be one that does. So good stuff there for Mike, and do appreciate his time. Tell you what, we'll take a break right here. We'll come back. We got some more headlines that we haven't gotten to, some stories to talk about. We've got some Iowa State to discuss at the top of the hour. But before we get into that with Alex Busy, let's see what else is going on around the rest of the country. Some fun things to get into. And, man, just appreciate you being along for the ride. Appreciate the guys behind the scenes as well. Still got over an hour to go. Let's get back to it. But first, take a commercial break. This is 365 Sports.
Marco's Pizza. 5 locations in the Waco area. Bob Mock, the owner, has been in the pizza business forever. One of my first jobs that I ever had, honestly, was when I was able to get out of high school, went to college, but I delivered pizzas, and I loved it. I really enjoyed that. One night, I was not a morning person, so I'd do whatever I do throughout the day, and then I would go and work at a pizza restaurant and enjoyed it from the time where I learned how to deliver to the time I learned how to make the pizza and then also even run the store. Specialty pizzas, get next level flavor from Marco's Pizza Deluxe, all meat, serving online, delivery, and you can order at Marco's Pizza, marcos.com, and pick it up yourself. Lunch, dinner, whatever it is. Football season, nothing better, right, than having pizza or what they have with wings too, salads, sandwiches. Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Robinson, and Woodway. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
This feels a little more normal. That music, that intro, and me bringing you back from commercial break, but this whole episode's been one big off the radar, although most of our talking points very much on the radar for this brand, this audience, and pretty much going to stay on that here, be perfectly honest with you, because basically hosting Solo Bolo, you don't need another segment featuring me necessarily. So just the whole thing's off the radar today, but we do have some off the radar like storylines, and we want to talk about some headlines here while we got a little bit of a break before our next guest. So let's get back to those headlines. And this one actually is a little bit off the radar since it isn't college football related. But bad news for some video game fans out there. We got the big triumphant, glorious return of the college football video game last summer. It was a huge deal. This year didn't feel anywhere near as big in terms of the release and just all of the details. I think if you're a fan, if you're somebody who YouTubes dynasties and does all that stuff, or just somebody who plays religiously, it's all still great. It's just like in big picture, it wasn't nearly as widespread talked about as obviously its big return after years and years away. But one of the things that did cause a little bit of a ruckus was a few months ago when there was talk that, hey, they got the football game back. Where's the basketball game? Well, guess what, buddy? The basketball game's coming up too. Well, not so fast, my friend. Here you go, our friend of the show, Matt Brown, Extra Points. Been a little while since we've talked to him now that I think about it. Probably need to get him back on the show here pretty soon. But according to a memo obtained by Extra Points, EA Sports has rescinded their college basketball video game licensing proposal as enough schools have elected to go with 2K. So EA Sports backing off of their offer to make a college basketball video game. So EA Sports won't be making it. And their vice president of commercial partnerships. So this might actually be the good news for you. There is there's a silver lining here, if you will. If you were hoping that it was going to be made by EA, well, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. But EA Sports vice president of commercial partnerships and licensing, Sean O'Brien, informed universities on September 3rd, according to Matt Brown. O'Brien said the decision was made because schools are accepting 2K Sports' offer to be included in the NBA 2K series. So I know, and I'm not a big video game guy as far as keeping up with a lot of the stuff and a lot of the sports games in particular. I just think I do sports for a living. I love sports. It's all I've ever known. But when I do get a little bit of a break, that's when I go dabble into like a little bit of pro wrestling or some music or just other movies or whatever, and that includes video games. I'm more of like a first-person shooter type of guy. Give me some Red Dead 2 or some GTA or something like that rather than like Madden, right? So I haven't been following along with this. When I saw this initially, I thought, oh my gosh, they're not going to have a college basketball game at all. That kind of sucks. But I do know that the NBA 2K series, I believe, is the one that has had like the WNBA featured in it as well. So am I imagining that I guess they're going to just be included in the full game, those who sign up for this? But a sudden shift, it says, in plans for EA Sports following the successful college football video game revival. EA declined to comment to a follow-up report from USA Today. They had teased the development of a college basketball game in June, and they haven't had one released since 2009. The plan was to include all 730 Division I men's and women's teams, as well as real-life players, which they would have arranged through NIL deals. O'Brien from EA had said it was a daunting task, but they were up for the challenge, and in the process of trying to figure out how it would all come together. However, when they hinted at the game, 2K, which has NBA 2K, said they want to get into it as well. They've had a game previously, College Hoops 2K8. I think I just was too drunk to remember that even being released. To be perfectly at that time in life, like I wasn't paying as much attention to video games. I was out and about, and so I don't even remember that game being a thing. But I don't know much at all. So according to Extra Points, 2K's plan does not include a standalone video game. So forget the silver lining. We're back to the bad news. But silver lining again, it will be included in NBA 2K. So I thought that's probably what that was going to mean. Not every D1 men's and women's team will be included. Schools would be available in 5-on-5 tournaments in the My Team mode via downloadable content. One thing I do know about video games is they will cut you left and right with the little add-ons, won't they? Oh, you need this new skin. How many people have spent like thousands of dollars on skins at this point just for Marvel Rivals or for any other? I mean, for like your sports games wanting to get alternate uniforms. So I'm sure they'll skin you to death with these bonus features that you have to pay for. But yeah, it looks like you still will be able to play some college basketball, but it will be a part of NBA 2K, not a standalone video game, and no word on who will be included. I think you can imagine we'll see most of the major brands. I don't know why they would not want to be a part of this project, especially if you're going to get NIL deals for guys as well involved in that. But so we went from good news, the game's going to come back, to bad news, EA is not going to have it, to good news, they won't have it, but 2K will, to bad news, but it's not going to be a standalone college basketball game. So I guess beggars can't be choosers. You'll have a little bit of some skin in the game with some college basketball action, but just not what people thought it might be as of a couple months ago when that story was first reported. So, all right, that story there. What do we got up next here, Brandon? And you'll actually have to tell me because this screen just went black on me here. So I don't know, but I can't see what we even have. So I'll just riff and, okay, here we go. Kelly Ford, updated Big 12 ratings. Just wanted to kind of check in on this. Did my Mojo rankings yesterday. And I think we got pretty much like, definitely not the same order, but this is just projected Big 12 standings after the first week of action. So it's fun to look at and debate about and argue over with your buddies. But Utah there at the top, and always good to see solid green on a list like this, as both the Utes and TCU, former conference mates, once again conference mates, just in a different conference, both there at the top. Not surprising, Utah with a really solid win over UCLA, TCU a really solid win over North Carolina. But I do like that everybody, while maybe definitely not overreacting, I don't think, to Utah, and nobody's really reacting all that crazy about TCU. But I do wonder, while I think both teams are very good and might be the top two teams in the Big 12, I do wonder how good the two teams they played are. Now, they're still better and have more of a pulse than if you had played somebody who doesn't have NIL to speak of, or doesn't have the budget for private jets and all the things that some of the bigger schools have. So they played Power 5 teams, or Power 4 teams. That's all you can do. But I do wonder at the end of the year, how good is North Carolina in the big picture, and how good is UCLA? But Utah and TCU looked great. So they're there at the top. And obviously you can get into some of the categories as far as the percentages of their chance to win a certain amount of games. And so looking at Utah, nothing guaranteed, but certainly you're feeling great about their chances to be in the mix at the end of the year, along with TCU. Iowa State there at 3. They drop a spot. BYU at 4, Texas Tech 5, Kansas 6. And I think that's, with the exception of Arizona State, kind of the cutoff line right now. I think would be your sort of top tier. I'd lump Arizona State in with that top group, but I think some configuration of that with an Arizona State inserted wherever, 2, 3, 4, 5, wherever. I've seen some power rating that had Arizona State still at number 1. That's why it's very much a subjective thing. That's why mine's like the Mojo rankings and just more of a twist on it. But rather than it's purely wins and losses, or it's what you did last year and, oh, well, you won last year, so you're the king until you get knocked off the throne. I don't subscribe to that. I still think Arizona State's a very good team, but I don't think they should be number 1. I don't know that they're behind Baylor in the big picture either as well, although we've got a limited sample size here. So just interesting to look at that. The updated projected Big 12 standings. Utah TCU would be your championship game right now, but clearly there's a handful of teams that are all going to have something to say about that before the end of the year is up. So we'll periodically look back at this. It was interesting to see West Virginia at the very bottom. They had a lot of turnovers, though. I don't know what all goes into his calculations, but West Virginia did have some sloppy moments. I think that was sort of lifted, though, by just the feeling of feeling like you have your, for lack of a better term, your mojo back with Rich Rod in the saddle. I think that's going to carry West Virginia maybe to a couple more wins than they otherwise would have if it was still the Neil Brown show. Oklahoma State there at 15 and UCF at 14. I think those two are kind of in a fight for the bottom, but you know what? I think the most probably controversial rating I had for the Big 12 Mojo rankings was Colorado at 9. And I said and I explained yesterday that was more of a benefit of the doubt. And I do give benefits of the doubt, especially in week 1. But there is no doubt that Colorado looked really bad in a lot of ways. I just am, for right now, going to believe that they are going to be better. We'll see how Julian Lewis plays this weekend. We know he's going to play. We know we're still going to see some Caden Salter. I was really taken aback in some way. Well, maybe that's too strong. I was surprised by how uncomfortable Caden Salter looked. He had an incredible season 2 years ago, but you go look at that schedule Liberty played. They didn't play many bangers, if any, until the end of the season when they lined up with Oregon, and then reality set in. And then last year, not nearly the same level of success as a team or for Caden Salter individually. And I thought it was a really nice pickup for Colorado. I still do, given their situation of having to replace a really good player in Shedeur Sanders and that familiarity. Anybody they brought in was going to be a weird fit compared to the father-son thing and how well Shedeur played at times. But I was just, really kind of surprised by how almost too big for the moment it seemed for Caden Salter last week. So I'm very curious to see Julian Lewis in action. Maybe that's the missing piece to get some of their mojo back. But I'll tell you what, I'm side-eyeing them a little bit. 9 might have been too high, but trust me, it won't last long if they don't have some of that mojo. I just still think there's a confidence with them and their fan base still that is not necessarily there right now for a UCF. Oklahoma State's got support galore and all of that. I just don't think that there's a lot of expectations that they're going to go win 8-9 games or something along those lines. But it's early, man. I can't wait to see who we're talking about at the end of the year that surprised us for better or for worse. And maybe Colorado will be that surprise and that they're much worse off than people expected, although plenty of people expected that they were going to struggle, replacing a Heisman Trophy two-way player like Travis Hunter and a really solid quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, who has familiarity unlike any other with his head coach. So Kelly Ford does a great job. There's some of the projected Big 12 standings. Just wanted to take a glimpse at that and kind of what all the numbers and the opinions are saying. And what we've established with our Big 12 is that Utah is top of mind for everybody. TCU really impressed. Iowa State looking really good, but it seems like not everybody's just ready to buy in just yet. BYU, it's hard to tell when you play Portland State because of what they've done in their first 2 games, but they look really sharp and crisp, and they're just built a little bit different. And then Texas Tech, they've got that capital T talent that you expect to carry them a long ways. But I do think Kansas and Arizona State belong in that conversation as well. We'll see if a Baylor and a K-State can kind of make their way back there. But feeling great about Iowa State, feeling really good about them ending up in Arlington. But we might be talking about them in a different way by this time next week, by Monday, because they might go out this weekend and lose to Iowa. It's the Cy-Hawk annual rivalry game. It's always a tussle for the most part. Last year certainly was the case. Walk-off field goal by Iowa State to get the big victory. Now trying to do something quite elusive and get back-to-back victories in this rivalry game. It's in Ames, and we'll be talking about that game next. This is 365 Sports.
Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty is celebrating 10 years in business. I met him when they opened up the business and trying to help men when it came to low T, trying to help you have more of what you need when it comes to energy, feeling better, stop being lazy or lethargic. And even if you started to experience with 1 out of every 3 to 4 men of symptomatic issues of low testosterone, including your sex drive or your performance. And so Petty Clinic, Dr. Kent Petty and Dixie will be celebrating on Friday morning until noon, 10 years of Men's Health and what they've brought to the table. On Friday, they plan to have door prizes, gift cards to Lowe's and Home Depot, drawings for 2 DeWalt tool sets, a total of 10 winners for a $150 credit towards Men's Health services at Petty Clinic Low T, and also a grand prize of a Traeger pellet grill, Pro Series 34 with rain cover. How about that? Stir-up coffee truck from Homestead Heritage in the parking lot offering free coffee. Should be a great time. Active patients or those you want to introduce to Dr. Kent Petty automatically entered in the drawings. You will not have to be present when they draw for the winners. 10 years. Dr. Kent Petty at pettycliniclowt.com.
At Sturdy Steel, we build more than grandstands and press boxes. We build the spaces where communities come together. Based in Texas and serving communities nationwide, we're proud of our reputation for dependable, high-quality work and strong client relationships that stand the test of time. From concept to installation, our team of skilled drafters, welders, and installers takes pride in delivering seating solutions designed to last. With a focus on dependability, transparency, and service, we are here to make the unique needs of architects, contractors, schools, and venues across the country. We ensure every project is seamless, sturdy, and ready for generations of fans to enjoy. That's Sturdy Steel.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome back into 365 Sports here. Craig Smoak. Got a whole cast and crew behind the scenes, and we've got ourselves another guest on the line with us. Here is Alec Busy, 247 Sports covers Iowa State, also part of KXNO, joins us here on 365 Sports. And Alec, thank you for your patience. I know you got a lot going on right now, Cyhawk Week. And, man, I guess my first question is, as somebody who's not from the area, does it feel different when this game's on the horizon versus most other weeks during the season?
No, it definitely does feel different. This is honestly the biggest game of the year, I think, certainly for Iowa State fans. Can't speak too much of it on the Iowa side of things, but I certainly get the impression that it means a little bit more to them, even though they have their 3 protected Big Ten games that they play every year. But anytime you have 2 in-state rivals match up like this, 2 schools that are separated by just about 2 hours down the interstate, there's certainly some animosity between the 2 fan bases, between the 2 schools. And it's a lot of fun to be able to see it grow and to see it become something that's celebrated not just in the state, but then to also see it kind of leave the state's borders and become more of a regional and even sometimes nationally interesting game.
So clearly a great start. I mean, as good as you could have drawn it up, handling your business out in Ireland, that could have turned into a fiasco. We've seen what it's turned into for Kansas State already this season. And then you get a really quality SES opponent the following week where you could have had a hangover, a la Kansas State once again, but they just roll. They steamroll. I don't know if a hangover's coming or not, but was this surprising in any way, the way they've just kind of gone about their business these first couple of games, even though that was a little bit dicey at times in Ireland?
Yeah, I think the way that they came back from from Ireland is certainly something that Matt Campbell and his coaching staff were well prepared for, something that they had discussed quite a bit throughout the weeks leading up to the time that they were going to be leaving for Ireland. One thing that they really invested a lot of time in interest and I guess even money into was researching the correct ways to handle sleep habits and sleep schedules. And by doing all of those different things, they hoped that they were able to keep players on an effective schedule that would allow them to execute at a high level. And clearly their research worked pretty well because they beat South Dakota 55-7. That's a preseason number 5 team in the FCS, according to that coaches poll, which is obviously a huge win for Iowa State. I mean, anytime you beat you should beat an FCS school, but to pound them like that 55-7 is pretty significant. The other thing to me that has stood out about the way Iowa State has handled this early season stretch is they know it's difficult. Having to play 2 emotional games in your first 3 opponents is significant. And they have done a really good job of kind of treating it one game at a time, not getting overwhelmed by the early season challenges that can create. So it all kind of goes up to another level with Iowa this weekend. There's extra emotions this game. Matt Campbell talked about that on Tuesday in his weekly press conference, how you can feel a difference in this week. Jamie Pollard came on the radio show that I host earlier this week, and he confirmed that it does feel different and that the in-state rivalry aspect of it does add some extra juice to it. And I think how you handle all of those things can be a unique challenge that Matt Campbell is obviously getting used to experiencing more as he's now in his 10th season leading Iowa State.
So like last year, the linebacker injuries were out of control. There were things that just kind of went sideways. Clearly, different season, different team, different health status and all of that. Where's your head in terms of somebody who covers a team on such a close basis? You've been obviously very impressed by the first couple of games, but when you deep dive, unlike others who are kind of just watching from the clouds, what's top of mind for you in terms of what you've seen that you've liked and maybe some things that you feel like, hey, in this Iowa game, this needs to be better, or by Big 12 play, hey, this needs to be, to a different degree?
Yeah, the one thing that to me has really stood out and impressed me early in the season is probably the play of Iowa State's tight ends. Replacing Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll was nationally, the biggest storyline that everyone kind of talked about with Iowa State. Those 2 receivers go to the Houston Texans on day 2 of the NFL draft. But without them, Iowa State has gotten great production from their tight ends this season. Ben Bramer, Gabe Burkle, they've combined for about 50% of the team's receptions, 50% of the team's yards. I think they've combined for 4 touchdowns early in the season as well, or maybe just 3. They had all 3 of Iowa State's receiving touchdowns last week. That's significant. Obviously, I think that's helped Iowa State get second-year receivers like Brett Eskildson or Dominic Overby more acclimated into the offense. I also think that's helped transfers like Chase Sowell, Xavier Townsend get more accustomed to their roles in Iowa State's offense. And they really haven't even had to use those 2 transfers too much yet earlier in the season. Sowell doesn't have a reception. Townsend, I think, just has 2 through the first 2 games of the season. In terms of things that you probably want to see improve as the season continues, I go to the defensive line for this group. Dominique Orange is a superstar. He's likely a top 50 NFL draft pick this coming April. That's a standout player in the Big 12, right? But they don't necessarily have a lot of proven production from their defensive ends. Tamatoa McDonough, transfer from Yale, is someone that they were high on. Vontroy Malone, a transfer from Tulsa, another individual that they were high on. They have gotten good play out of Ikenna Ezeagu. He had 2 really nice batted balls at the line of scrimmage against Kansas State. I think that's significant. They probably need at least 1 or 2 of those defensive ends to step up and really give some positive pass rush value next to Dominique Orange on the interior of the Cyclone defensive line. But they've certainly gotten good production from the tight ends to this point, which I think has helped Rocco Becht in his 3rd year starting. And if the defensive line can continue to improve next to Dominique Orange, I think Iowa State's defense can continue to improve and continue to kind of cement itself again as one of the top 5 defenses in the Big 12, which is something they have been almost annually since Matt Campbell was hired back in 2016.
So there's some good games, not quite to the level of last week, just the abundance of especially ranked versus ranked matchups. But this is one of the biggest, and certainly if you know anything about the rivalry, one of the most anticipated. How excited are people to have Big Noon in town? Just kind of what is the buzz in terms of the spotlight that's being placed on Ames, Iowa this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's the 3rd or 4th time that one of the big pregame shows has come to Ames for this. In 2019 and 2021, ESPN's College Game Day was on site. This time, Big Noon's coming. Last year, when the Cyhawk game was in Iowa City at Kinnick Stadium, hosted by Iowa, it was nationally broadcast on CBS. This year, it's obviously going to be on network television again with Fox hosting the game. I think all of those things kind of show that the game and the series is starting to kind of, like I said earlier, leave the state's borders in terms of national significance. In terms of fan interest, I don't think it ever wanes too much or if it ever fades too much because, like I said, of the rivalry aspect of it, the in-stateness of it. You have the split homes, right? Like the house divided flags are certainly going to be out flying throughout the week and throughout the weekend, and there'll be bragging rights throughout the state. But I do think everyone's excited to have Big Noon. I also think that Jamie Pollard, Iowa State athletic director, tweeting about Dave Portnoy being welcomed into Ames and being welcomed into the production of Big Noon kind of adds to some of the excitement because this is the first time that Barstool's pregame show will be traveling with Fox as well. So you'll get Big Cat in town, which is obviously someone who's a fan favorite. Those other Barstool personalities, people enjoy their content as well. And then Big Noon, right? Like that's obviously something that people are excited about. It doesn't necessarily have the juice I think that College Game Day does, but it is significant.
Yeah, and then you have the whole Big 12 Barstool story from yesterday as well. So like perfect timing. And I'm really curious. I mean, are you a big Barstool guy at your age? Like I'm much older than you are, but like how much does that resonate? Do you think like was there talk about that yesterday when that story dropped? Like did that register at all for the younger folks out there?
Yeah, it's funny being in charge of the Cyclone Alert message boards and monitoring that, you kind of see the complaints of, I think, the older generation, your age group. I'm not personally someone who engages with a ton of Barstool content. I'm more of your traditional media engagement type person. I do understand the allure, particularly to Dave Portnoy, right? Like he's an entertainer. People find him to be entertaining. Even if I think he's more of an agitator than he is maybe an entertainer myself. I think Big Cat is hard to not like, right? He brings a lot of great comedic value. I think that's exciting for fans to be able to interact with him. To me, what's really interesting about the whole Barstool Big 12 storyline yesterday is, alternate headline world. A week ago, Dave Portnoy debuts on Big Noon, and he's talking about how he's the champion of the Big Ten and how he's there to prop up the Big Ten. Now, a week later, alternate headline would be Big 12 begging for, the guy who championed the Big Ten a week ago for more attention. So, I think Portnoy is going to give it to him because Portnoy tends to kind of do those things. And I think that's exciting. I know I even saw today that the gentleman who leads Iowa State's collective posted a photo of an old tradition at Iowa State with a massive hot air balloon that would be outside of the stadium, trying to generate sponsorships for that to bring it back. And Portnoy quote tweeted that and was like, I'll do it. So I'll sign up and do it. So I think Portnoy is already kind of starting to endear himself to the things that Iowa State athletic director Jamie Pollard and Big 12 leadership were kind of communicating with him about over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, definitely an agitator, but smart guy. He knows what to. He's successful for a reason. So yeah, he's going to lean into the Big 12 now, and we'll see what that looks like on the other side. I definitely think it'll depend on the execution. Like, are we getting Big Cat on a regular basis, or PFT and Dave, or are we getting like the 20th guy in line? It's on like the reality show for Barstool that not many people know. I think it'll all be interesting to see how that works out, but definitely some interesting business being done by Brett Yormark for sure. All right, so Iowa, we've seen Iowa State go out to Ireland, beat Kansas State, turn around, beat a really quality FCS opponent. We've seen Iowa beat Albany, yes. 34-7.
Correct.
What do you know about Iowa based on what we saw in that game and just in general? What do you expect and what stands out about the Hawkeyes?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a fan base that was more ready to hit the panic button outside of Tuscaloosa, Alabama than Iowa when it came to the way their quarterback played on Saturday in the debut. Mark Gronowski, the transfer from South Dakota State, was much heralded coming in. Former Walter Payton Award winner. That's the FCS version of the Heisman. Won a national title at the FCS level with South Dakota State. I think he threw for over 12,000 yards in his time there. So for him to come in to Iowa last week and complete, I think, 8 of 14 passes for 44 yards, had a couple throws in the red zone, which were, worse than what you would have seen under like the Deacon Hill, Spencer Petras type days, which is concerning to say, right? Like he had some really bad misses on back-to-back throws, and that's really tough for Iowa fans to diagnose and to see and observe. I do think, though, that what would concern me most if I was an Iowa fan based off of his performances, the talk coming out of it is that he was nervous, had the jitters. He's a former FCS quarterback. Like he should have confidence in playing against a program like Albany. That's a program that he has torched in the past, or programs like that he has had great success against in the past. So the nerves there concern me if I'm an Iowa fan, because now the stage only gets bigger. It only gets brighter coming to Cyhawk, coming to Jack Trice Stadium for week 2. I think that You also look at that at Iowa, they're going to be without their starting running back. Kamari Bolton had a right arm or right shoulder injury that led to him being put in a sling for the second half of last week's game. I think that leads to a couple of other running backs, Jazz Patterson, Terrell Washington, getting more opportunities. Xavier Williams led them in rushing a week ago, had about 125 rushing yards. I think he'll get an opportunity. And then the defense, we've come to know and expect Iowa to have one of the best defenses in the country. This one's not as experienced as previous defenses are, less experienced, particularly at the linebacker and the secondary positions. Defensive line, though, is deep. Maybe doesn't have the stars of like AJ Epinesa like a few years ago, but they do have some really good players in Aaron Graves, Max Olsen, Ethan Herkett. All those guys can rush the passer on the defensive line. So, I think that this Iowa team is certainly capable of beating Iowa State on Saturday. It's certainly a game that I expect to be competitive, but perhaps the biggest deciding factor will be how well Mark Gronowski plays, because if it's anything like he played in week 1, I think Iowa State's chances of a home victory go through the roof.
Hey, Alec, I'm glad that we were able to get you on the show, man. Really great insight, and enjoy the weekend. It's already shaping up to be a lot of fun just having college football back, but I know what this game means to Iowa and now the rest of the country. Very excited about this one as well, especially in Big 12 country with what Iowa State's done up to this point. Big crossover potential here to get a win over a Big 10 team. So I think a lot of people interested in this one, man. Have a great weekend. Keep up the good work, and we'll definitely talk to you again down the line.
Hey, thank you guys so much. Good luck. Have a great weekend, and enjoy the football. I think we're all excited for it, especially in your neck of the woods. You got NFL tonight.
Oh, yeah, baby. Yep. Cowboys Eagles. Looking forward to that one. Thank you, Alec. Alec Busy of 247 Sports. Also catch him on KXNO Radio up there in Iowa. Garrett recommended him. Great job getting him, Garrett. Good guest, and definitely a guy I think we'll lean back on at some other times throughout. We got some other Iowa State guys that we talked to. Shout out Brent Bloom. Shout out Chris Williams. But good to have some of the young guys. I'm just going to ignore that I was lumped in with the older generation. I just glossed right over that. Yeah, I know. That is
messed up.
That is where we're at, Gary. You and I are right there eye to eye. And so, yeah, that's where we are. And he's right. I mean, he's right. It still hurts to hear it. But no, Alec, good young man, and does a good job covering the Cyclones, and did a great job there with us talking a little bit about this game. What's the spread? Last I looked, Iowa State was definitely favored in this game, but let me check the most recent, see if there's been much of a change here. ESPN's matchup predictor has 65% chance for Iowa State to win this game. 3.5 point favorites for Iowa State. So looking to make it back-to-back. Rocco Beck's been fantastic. We didn't even talk about him because I think it's just so on the nose that we kind of know what's what with Rocco Beck right now. But, yeah, I've been thoroughly impressed with Iowa State, and this would be a big win. Next week they go to they go back to the non-con, and I think a lot of teams will be getting their non-con games in. We got conference games starting like at SEC, for example, kind of randomly. But Iowa State already 2-0 because they played that early Ireland game. They've already got a Big 12 win, but now continuing on could have a Big 10 win, be 3-0, and then you turn around and it is a weird road trip, but you're going to Arkansas State next week. So handle your business this week. You'll be overwhelming favorites, whether you win or lose, I think, this week. Next week against Arkansas State. So point being, he could have 2 marquee massive wins in the first 3 games and then a pass to 4-0 before you hit Big 12 play in full. And that's a great place to be if you're an Iowa State Cyclones fan. So good stuff there, and very much looking forward to that game. I picked Iowa State. Garrett, did we have your picks? I don't remember if we even touch on those?
I didn't do them on the air. I think we were going to do them. We might do them on socials, but I didn't do them on the air. Yeah.
Well, what did you have on?
It's hard to flow with me doing all this.
Yeah. You're like, for those, I appreciate
multitasking, bro.
Yeah, no, I definitely know. And I'm interrupting by continue asking, but I did want to ask, who do you have in Iowa State versus Iowa?
Oh, I'm taking Iowa State.
Yeah, okay.
I think this one right here, like Iowa State has the better squad. I think Iowa probably still has an advantage in the trenches. But Iowa State clearly has the better quarterback. I think they have the better playmakers. I think they arguably might have the better coach. I mean, Matt Campbell's coaching his ass off the past decade, man. Kirk Ferentz is doing his thing. He's a Hall of Famer. But what Matt Campbell's been able to do in such a short amount of time stacks up to what Kirk Ferentz has done over, God, my whole life.
Yeah, no doubt. And Kirk Ferentz, a really good coach. I mean, Iowa not known for being some perennial blue blood itself. He's done a great job there, but Matt Campbell has done a hell of a job at Ames, Iowa. My first memory of Iowa State, because I just don't have any memories from growing up. I watched a lot of Nebraska growing up, a lot of Oklahoma. So Iowa State wasn't really a big game, and it wasn't really always that competitive of a game. But then I remember seeing Seneca Wallace for the first time.
Right there's the first time I was ever introduced to Iowa State.
And I think he was the introduction for a lot of people to Iowa State football. And they went and played in Norman, and I was able to go up to that game and really enjoyed myself. OU won that game. But, yeah, Seneca Wallace is one of those names you're like, tell me what time period you were born in. I'm like, Peter Warwick, Tommy Frazier, Indomitian Sue, Seneca Wallace, he
was cold, man.
Oh, he was great. He was great. So they've built on that, safe to say. He helped lay some of those bricks for the foundation, but Matt Campbell's built the damn house on top of that thing. It's a matter of he's going to add a second story or not to it, and they've been awfully close to doing that, including last year. Just not enough against Arizona State in the Big 12 title game, but in a really good spot to try and get back there this year. I wanted to make mention of one other story real quick before we take a break, and we do have a pre-recorded interview. Smokey sat down earlier today, talked with our regular Thursday guest, Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. We might have just brushed that to the side because he's got high school football tonight, but the season opens tonight. We got and not just any games. This is Cowboys Giants for the 500th time, or Cowboys random Browns game or some. It's Cowboys Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions. So definitely want to get Mickey to talk about that one. But this story kind of weird coming out over the last hour or so. North Carolina, and first year. This from Caller from ESPN.com, and I don't know where else this has been reported as well, perhaps, but saw it here first on ESPN. North Carolina and first-year head coach Bill Belichick have banned the New England Patriots staff from accessing the Tar Heels program. When reached by ESPN, North Carolina football GM Michael Lombardi said, "Good luck," and hung up the phone. I'd just keep him up for a second. Why would you do that? I don't know.
You're hindering the future in multi-million-dollar deals for players on your roster. And then not only is it you're blackballing one organization, but you're giving you're making it extremely difficult for other organizations to come in as well. That's not good business practice at all, dude.
And the thing is, you will learn quickly that especially a lot of these traveling scouts, they jump from team to team. Absolutely. It's not like they're just lifers there. So you might piss off this Patriots scout that's the next head coach of the Raiders one day or something like that.
It's like recruiting. You don't piss off a coach. Exactly. If you don't go to a certain school, you don't burn that bridge because you might come back in a couple of years.
So there's only 32 teams, and all these guys have these dreams, and you're basically not eliminating the Patriots from picking a guy, but you're making it more difficult for them to want to do so. It seems very counterproductive and just very personal. So when reached by ESPN, UNC football general manager, and I keep making sure, am I clicking a fake article? He says, "Good luck," and hangs up the phone. Michael Lombardi does. UNC as a school also declined comment. Lombardi and Tar Heels pro liaison Francie Jourdain informed the Patriots they would be banned from UNC the day before one of their scouts was scheduled to visit in August. So this goes back to last month, actually. Two other NFL scouts told ESPN that North Carolina, under Belichick's leadership, offers limited access to all NFL personnel. Clubs are allowed to speak only with Jourdain, and UNC's college relations website says scouts will have zero access to coaches or other personnel people. According to the scouts, the term zero access appears 3 times on UNC's college relations website, a page that's only accessible to NFL personnel. One scout said NFL personnel are only able to watch 3 periods of practice in Chapel Hill, and that varies. Schools do different things, but that according to the unnamed scouts, many of them said that most programs allow you to watch the entire practice. One said, "Can't think of another school with a statement of zero access. So this was first reported by John Middlecoff. Shout out to ESPN. They don't always credit, but maybe it's a new day there. It does seem like they've changed their kind of attitude of late for sure. But 3 and outs, John Middlecoff, actually the first to report on that. So shout out to him as well. What a bizarre story at just the wrong time after Monday night. Like now you're being problematic for NFL scouts. So yeah, why would a player want to go deal with that and sign up to play for these guys? That's not a good look.
No, it's not. And you're supposed to be like the greatest coach ever. You're supposed to have the insight and to me, it would be like, I want to go get developed by somebody who understands what the NFL is expecting. And you would think that you could use his connections throughout the league to help you with whatever access, whether it's you're going to play or you want to get into coaching or whatever else. But this whole thing just has turned into a circus. And I'm curious if North Carolina had any idea that this was going to be the baggage that came with it. And in hindsight, if they kind of regret hiring.
They will, if they don't already, if he loses some more games, that's for sure. That's the name of the game. Ultimately, if he turns around and they win 10 games, it won't matter. He can do whatever. She can run the defense and, no scouts allowed ever. But yeah, and Middlecoff, I knew that name sounded familiar, but a former NFL scout himself. So he would clearly have some connections. And so, yeah, there you go. UNC not getting along with the Patriots in particular. So great there that the legendary head coach and the organization aren't on good terms. We kind of already knew that, but to the point of you're now denying opportunities in some ways for your players to get eyes on them like it's supposed to be. So I think there's a lot of people, myself included, at least had the thought cross their mind after Monday night of, is he going to make it to the end of the season?
I think he makes it.
I do too.
I don't think his ego, I don't think he goes out like that. I think he makes it through the season, and whether his son takes over or they go a different direction, that might be the case, but I don't see him like tanking and saying I'm out before the season's over.
Yeah, I think that would just be such an awful look for a career and for what he's accomplished. Like, dude, you got to make it to the end of the road. And then after this year, if it does go like the way Monday night went for the most part, then okay, I get it. Like it was a bad fit. You cut it off. Like the marriage sucks. Yes, you try to work on it, but when it's clear that it's not good, then don't wait another 10 years to get divorced. Right. Yep. So you could see that maybe being a very quick relationship that ends. But yeah, I am all here for whatever happens next, because we knew it would be interesting in some way. We just didn't necessarily know it would be this interesting this quickly and to this extreme of a degree where it's already like, is he going to make it to the end of the year? So that is something we will continue to monitor. Coming up next, speaking of the NFL, there's scouts for the Cowboys that probably would love to go out to Chapel Hill and maybe look at some players. Although based on Monday night, I don't know how much they have to offer to NFL scouts at this point. That's the other thing, if we're being perfectly honest. But scouts from the Cowboys and Packers, I'm sure, have been Chapel Hill a time or two. Their hard work not the Packers, the Eagles will be out in the field later on tonight in some form or fashion. But Cowboys, Eagles coming up later on to kick off the NFL season. David Smoak had an opportunity to talk with Mickey Spagnola to preview this game, and that is coming your way next. This is 365 Sports.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott will invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Game day, the start of the NFL season, Cowboys and Eagles. You know that no matter what's going on with Dallas, last year didn't go well. Doesn't matter. They're going to either be the opening game on a Thursday or they're going to be the opening game on a Sunday. It's going to be the Giants or Philly or someone, and here we are with this great rivalry. Mickey, for someone like you, and of course I've covered it for a long time, but you've been in and out of every city, every team, every game, covering the Cowboys forever. Does opening day mean anything more to you each year?
Oh, I think you get excited because it's the start, right? And you know what's about to happen. I don't know that the opening game is so meaningful that if you lose, it's like, oh my Lord, the sky's falling, right? But yeah, it's special. I don't know if opening day in the NFL is how should I say it? I don't know that it's celebrated the way it is for baseball.
Yep.
Because it's a big deal in baseball, it seems like, and then they still have 161 to play. But in football, it's like, okay, we're starting, but I don't know that they introduce all the players before the game, just like baseball. But yeah, it's neat, and it's neat to be here in Philadelphia. Knowing that, they're the defending Super Bowl champs and they're going to raise the flag and, have this big ceremony. The thing the Cowboys could only hope for is they get a little too full of themselves.
Now, yes, exactly. And obviously Philadelphia's loaded. It doesn't mean they have everything back. I mean, that's part of the attrition of what the NFL likes to do, right? With the parity, the draft picks and free agency, whatever. You mentioned that whether you win or not, but okay, let's put Dallas in a position where a lot of people are not real sure about them. Some, of course, are always going to be, very positive, and there's some fans that are like, oh my God, here comes a meteor. But what happens? Dak is 33-8 against the NFC East in his career. It's a phenomenal number. They've had 12-win seasons, 3 times recently. I know last year didn't go well, but he seems to play well in these games. And these are also, and you know this, whether they've been good or not, these kind of games, it seems like they at times will win one when you least expect it. Will that just shoot everybody from not so sure or negative to, oh my God, start printing tickets for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, exactly right. Look, I think what everybody forgets last year, because they, David, everybody wants to put something in a box and put a bow on the top without looking inside of the box. I think it's quickly forgotten that Dak missed 9 games last year. Got hurt in the 8th game, didn't finish that. And he didn't play in either games against Philadelphia. So this idea, and I keep seeing it out there, well, last year, the Cowboys in the 2 games against Philadelphia got beat by a combined score of 75-13. Okay, I get it. But when they played Philadelphia, it was the second half of the season. They didn't have Dak. CD had gotten hurt in the same game that Dak tore his hamstring tendon. Brandon Cooks was playing through or trying to play through a knee. You had Zach Martin trying to play through an ankle that needed surgery. They had a lot going on that second half of the season and then finished 7-10, which, by the way, David, was their first losing season since when? 2020, when Dak only played 5 games. So if you think about it, the only 2 losing seasons they've had when Dak became the starting quarterback in 2016 was the 2 seasons that he didn't finish. Played 5 games and 8 games, and that's it. So there's some symmetry to that I think you have to take into account. And, when I was talking to him the other day, we were talking about, missing those 2 games. And, he's pretty excited to get back and play. He hadn't played in quite some time. And he pointed out, he said, I just feel deep down if I had been there, things would have been different. All I know is the last time he played Philadelphia was in 2023. I think it was in the first week of December. They beat the Eagles 33-13. That's not that far long ago. So anyway, they could surprise people. I don't know if they have enough to win the game just because of all the newness they're going into this game with. But from what I saw, David, in training camp, I just think this team has an opportunity, if they stay healthy in the key spots, to be better than most anticipate, because everybody's going off of 7-10 last year.
Yeah, and you wonder if this is a team, and even some of the better teams like blow a tire or 2 early, and then they get into a roll where they win 6 of 7, then 7 or 8, whatever. But tell me or explain to me, we know that Schottenheimer and his father, of course, was an incredibly successful coach, but just, always had heartbreak. An amazing man. He had good football teams everywhere he was, Cleveland, San Diego, even in Washington. For a short amount of time. What's the difference in Brian Schottenheimer and his father, Marty?
Well, as a head coach, I think Brian's a little bit more invested in kind of this family atmosphere of getting to know his players, hoping that these relationships allow them to be indebted to him when things get tough. I did a deal, by the way, with Michael Irvin in Tyler a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about leadership. And his explanation was, I want to do these things off the field with these players. I want to do them in relationships in the locker room. So when it's the fourth quarter and the pressure's on and you got to make a play, this guy's going to look at me and said, boy, Michael's been nice to me. I'm indebted to him. I got to give everything I've got. And I don't know if that sounds corny and we got to make a movie or something like that, but I think it's somewhat realistic that when you treat people like people, that maybe you get a return from that investment in how hard and how well they prepare for a game.
All right. I saw the quote from him about physicality, and people, when they think about physicality, that normally is an offense, and that means you can pound the ball, and Cowboys have had that happen to them, and they've also had success the other way, too. You have CeeDee Lamb, and then, of course, Pickens, who, if things work out, can be dynamic. 2 really good receivers. Are they going to be a team that runs the ball by throwing it, or sets the tone by throwing like running type plays, you know what I mean, around the line of scrimmage? Or give me an idea of what you expect.
Well, I wish I knew how teams were going to play them, because we got into a long kind of off the record discussion with Dak about how teams, might play them. Are they going to play you with a cloud cover and it's a weak box, meaning you don't have that many people at the line of scrimmage. He goes, well, then we can run the ball. If they're so worried about us throwing the ball, and teams should be worried about them throwing the ball. When George Pickens got here, I heard all this talk about, well, CD's number one, Pickens is number two. Well, I think they got two number one receivers. I think he's that good. And I think you have to remember that Jake Ferguson played through injury last year. He's healthy at the tight end position. And don't go to sleep on Kevontae Turpin, because they're trying to use him as a third receiver. And not a gimmick receiver, David, but a guy that goes down the field and catches passes the way he lit up the USFL that last season he was there when he was the offensive player of the season in that league. And I understand it's that league, but he was more than a punt returner. And so I think they're trying to incorporate him to the point. Don't be surprised if he lines up behind Dak and they hand him the ball. So they're trying to use his speed. So I just think this offense, if the offensive line can hold up, and there's some newness there, right, that this offense could be awfully, awfully good. And if your offense is good, that'll give the defense a hand, right? It'll help out. Now, there's a lot of newness on that defense, and it'll be interesting to see how they hold up against the Eagles, especially when they're running the football. But again, if you can control the game with your offense, that gives fewer opportunities for the defense that they have to, basically execute, because they, may not get the ball back for a while. So there's a lot we don't know, and I think we start knowing, and that might be the excitement of this opening game for the Cowboys, that finally we're going to get some results. We're going to see something from all the work they did in training camp to see if that was for real or not.
Well, they just have to get it to the 40 of the opponent for Auburn to kick a 57-yard field goal or whatever it is, about 6 or 8 times. How quickly can Clark, the defensive tackle, how quickly can he have an impact in this game, and also with the Cowboys defense, because they have had their issues where teams have been able to gut them quite a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't see why there would be any delay in what he's able to do. Now, I know he's only been here a week, but it's not like he hasn't been practicing the way Micah Parsons hasn't been doing anything since January 5th, right? This guy's been on the team in Green Bay. He's been working out. He's been practicing. He should be ready to go. Now, scheme-wise, I don't know that it's that different, but guess what? The last game he played in with Green Bay was the playoff loss to Philadelphia. So he knows a little bit about what Philadelphia does offensively and how they try to run the ball. So I don't ahead of Mozzie Smith, and maybe, becomes a staple at the nose tackle position. David, all I know that I've seen from this guy, and it's hard to judge in practice, they're not tackling, whatever.
Right.
He is big. He is a large man. I was in the locker room the other day talking to C.J. Goodwin. His locker's about 3 from where Kenny Clark was sitting in his locker. Those lockers are pretty wide, right? He sat on that bench in front of it, and I swear to God, he took up the width of that locker. And I'm going, okay, that's a good start from a nose tackle position, right? I don't know what else you can do, but you're big, and they got to do a lot to get you out of the way.
Yeah, no question about it. It is. Well, hey, I didn't ask you this because have we spoken much at all? What were your thoughts about the Netflix series? You and I mean, you were in the trenches, and there's a lot of what I saw in the series. Very few things surprised me or I didn't quite know about, but then, of course, you're even deeper entrenched in that around what was Valley Ranch and now the Star. What was your overall take on that?
I thought it was it was like a good review of what, those years of my life, right? Because you're right, yeah. I lived it. I was there the day Jerry bought the team, and I was there until things fell apart in 2000 with all the injuries and Dave Campbell's first year as the head coach. So I saw it. I don't think many things surprised me, like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought there was a couple things that and I understand when you do something like that, you can't get into the nitty gritty of all the details of every event. There was a couple things they kind of glossed over that I thought they could have done a better job of, like, the Herschel Walker trade. They didn't point out that when the trade was initially announced, it was Herschel Walker for 5 players Minnesota didn't want. We didn't find out until like 2 or 3 days later that there were draft choices tied to those players if the Cowboys decided not to keep them.
Yep.
And I thought that was significant on how the trade, on how they scheduled the trade, how they designed the trade. The other thing, the 90 season when they nearly made the playoffs, and then Troy got hurt in the second to last game of the season. And even in the last game, if they had beaten Atlanta, they were going to go to as a wild card team. So they didn't. That should have set up why Jerry made such a premium of getting a backup quarterback the next year when they brought in Steve Berline.
Yeah.
And even that year, they didn't make a big enough deal out of them going to Philadelphia to beat the Eagles. I think it was game 14 or 15 to clinch the wild card spot. They just kind of glossed over that they qualified for the playoffs. And then I don't know that they did a really good job with the Michael Irvin trial in 96, because there was more to it. They kind of showed the sign of the assistant DA saying, I don't know how we got to this this plea bargain deal. Well, there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that got covered up and why they offered him that. So there was a couple things like that I saw, like, okay, because the thing I remember, David, I was in the courtroom the day, it was late in the afternoon, and the defense attorneys were going to call a witness to the stand. And the prosecutors held up the trial, went to the bench, both sides went to the bench, and all of a sudden they recessed until the next morning. And by the time the next morning came, Michael had agreed to the adjudicated sentence of 4 years. And it's like, whoa, what happened overnight? Well, there was something that was being covered up that they didn't quite get to. But I thought the forthcoming of the interviews they did from different people was very good. People spoke up, especially Troy Aikman. He didn't hide the fact that he was not happy with Barry Switzer being the head coach.
Absolutely.
And he voiced it, So I thought that was really good that they got down to what that dynamic was between those two in those final couple of years as the head coach.
Okay, quick hit. I'm going to ask you about a team that last year was in the playoffs in the NFC, and you tell me buy or sell. All right?
All right.
Detroit.
I would buy.
Philadelphia.
I think they're still good.
The Rams.
I don't know about them. I got to see more.
Packers.
They finished 11-6 last year, I think. I think they're good. If Micah Parsons can play and not be selfish, just looking for sacks, I think that'll help their defense. So, yeah, I would buy on the Packers.
Well, there were thoughts they were really good before the trade. And now we'll see how much the loss of Clark, that big meat eater in the middle, how much that affects him. But guys that miss time and usually miss training camps whether it's off-season into training camp, 1 out of about every 4, I don't want to sound like some kind of commercial for a pharmaceutical company, but 1 out of every 4 players like that, they seem to then suffer some sort of an injury, like a long-term injury.
Think about this with Micah. The last time he played football was January 5th. He missed the whole offseason. He missed the training camp. He missed preseason, not that he would have played, right? And he has not had, now I don't know what they've done so far up there or what they will do either yesterday, today, or tomorrow, but he hasn't had shoulder pads on since January 5th in a football endeavor. So is he going to just step out there and light up the world? That injury thing is looming overhead. And all of a sudden now this back injury that he claimed he had, when I saw him working out and doing conditioning, and I didn't see anything wrong with his back, and now it's become a thing, right? Well, is it a thing because he's not ready to play, or is it really a thing? And so it'll be interesting to see how quickly he gets back on the field.
All right, there's a couple Vikings.
I would be leery having to go with a young quarterback.
Washington.
I think they're still good. And maybe with the success of last year, they could be even better. But remember, everybody's had, 8 months, 9 months to dissect Jaden Daniels. It may not be as easy as it was his rookie year.
Mickey, thank you, buddy. Enjoy Philly. Stay away from the batteries, snowballs, because they probably had them in the freezer back in February, or even for them, it's cold in March. But thank you for your time, Mickey Spagnola. Every Thursday, he's in Philadelphia. Cowboys and Eagles tonight. I'm David Smoak. More with 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. We're rolling through. And by the way, hello, everybody. I know you haven't seen me all day. I'm at my brother-in-law's wedding in Nashville. So,
but I'm here still kind of with you in spirit and in video. Week 2 need it. Number 5, Baylor needs a win over SMU. If this is an 0-2 team to its 2 biggest non-conference opponents back-to-back, look, the only way that they'll be able to get into the playoff is by winning the Big 12 outright. And that's going to be tough to do if you've already lost to the 2 biggest opponents on your schedule. Now, you might wind up being a very solid 8-4 team, and that's fine. That's respectable. That's what you were last year. It's stepping in the right direction by not stepping back and staying the course. But if they want to be a playoff contender, the SMU game is kind of a need it, and as much as it can be a need it in the second game of the season. Now, look, if they rattle off and win all the rest of them, win the conference, the first 2 aren't going to matter in the slightest. But if they don't, you kind of backed yourself into a corner. If you want the playoff, if you want to be in the 12-team playoff and be at least an at-large, you need to have this win on your resume if you're not going to win the Big 12. And who knows if they are or not. It's very early, but this one is as needed as it gets early on in the season. Number 4, Ole Miss needs to beat Kentucky. Why don't you would say, Paul, why does this need to be said? Well, last year, I don't know if you remember this, 364 days ago, but Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. And then Ole Miss tried to pretend like that game never happened. Like it was just not discussed. It was, it was like the baby you gave up for adoption and don't want to talk about. That was the Kentucky game to Ole Miss last year. Look, we took the baby to Canada. We gave it to a nice couple. He's now a lumberjack in love and life. We did the right thing. Ole Miss had that last year with Kentucky. They got to beat them this year. Now, I think they will. Of course, I thought they would last year too, and they lost. So this is important because this is a team that's not very good, and if they lose to them again, you can pretty much count Ole Miss out because that means they're probably going to have the same kind of year they had last year, and then Lane Kiffin's going to spin his wheels and be like, well, and you're like, hey, what about Kentucky? And he's like, when did that happen? You're like, it happened 2 years in a row. And he's like, no, it didn't. I don't have a son who's a lumberjack in Canada. What are you talking about? You're the one who said Canada, not me. Yeah, that's how that's going to go. Number 3, Brent Venables needs a W over Michigan. Not technically, but like it would really get the OU train rolling if they got this win over Michigan. It's at home. It's freaking Michigan. John Mateer is there. Jaden Ott's going to play more this week. You are set up to restore the fans' confidence in you Saturday. So get that dub, restore that confidence. Number 2, the Big 12 needs a non-con win. I point out Arizona State here because they have Mississippi State, who I think is better than they were a year ago, but probably not to the level at Mississippi State. But they need to go and beat Mississippi State because, as stupid as it is, the conference is going to be judged on everything. Look, Baylor lost to Auburn last week. Colorado lost to Georgia Tech, among other things that happened. But when it comes down to splitting hairs, even if Baylor and Colorado are not in the race, that's somehow going to get folded into the strength of schedule of teams who didn't play Colorado, Georgia Tech, Baylor, or Auburn. Like it's how this all works in some way in the mental scope of things. So it'd be really nice for the conference to get one of those non-con wins. The best opportunity is Arizona State over Mississippi State. Now, Oregon does play Oklahoma State, but I'm not here to sell you hopium just yet. Number 1, K-State needs to beat Army. I am loath to talk about the curse of the leprechaun, but it's very true. Whoever wins the Aer Lingus Classic has pleased the leprechaun and will have a good season. Georgia Tech, Iowa State, whoever loses to the leprechaun has angered him and apparently taken a pee in his pot of gold. I don't know. But so far, it has been nerve-wracking to be a Kansas State fan. And now they got to play against a team that also needs a W after losing to Tarleton last week. This is more interesting, I think, than a lot of people realize, in that both these teams need to feel good about themselves at the same time. And Kansas State should win this game easily. But they have the curse of the leprechaun, and I hope they can shake it, because I would not wish the curse of the leprechaun on my worst enemy. Believe you me, I've experienced the curse of the leprechaun, and I will never, ever anger him again. That's going to do it for us. Craig, read some polls.
You could say please with the read the polls. This is a little strong, but thank you, Paul, for your top 5 there. So polls today: who has the best shot at winning Super Bowl? Oh gosh, what are my?
I know, like, what is
59? No. 60?
There's no way it's 60 already.
I usually am pretty good at Roman numerals. What Roman numeral is LX? Roman numeral LX. Let's see
LX,
here.
or is the football count
Yeah,
like
60.
an I?
It's 60.
Is it 60?
Yeah, it's 60 because
okay.
L is 50, X is 10. So I thought, so I was right eventually there. So Super Bowl 60. Yeah, that seems
That's wild, man.
Are we really there already? I don't know
it
how.
doesn't seem real.
Okay, I'm gonna have to double check that. And this is more like that COVID from the last year. Like this time flies, and it's also not even COVID. It's just being older, but like it's a double whammy of time flying by. So who has the best shot to win the Super Bowl? Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, or other? 25% going with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Not a bad pick. That's who I would pick. You can ask me the next 10 years who's going to win, unless there's an injury to him in the offseason or something. I would say the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a safe bet. Buffalo, can they finally get it done? My sister, my brother-in-law, they are massive Josh Allen fans. They love Josh Allen, and I think they would love to see him win a Super Bowl, and a lot of other people would as well. Baltimore, always a solid choice at 13%. You swapped out the Cowboys because you didn't have faith, Andrew. Yeah.
I told you they broke him.
I said, put the Cowboys on there. He's like, nope. So other 40%. So the Cowboys would be a part of that 40% along with everybody else in the league. But yeah, Chiefs, Ravens, Bills. A lot of AFC love on this poll. No Eagles, Andrew? No Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs? I think they might have to be swapped out for the Ravens. But yeah, that's a good little poll there. So Chiefs, a good pick. I would like to have seen what they'd be like opposite the Eagles.
Right.
Or the field. But all right, what's the next poll that we have here? How do you feel about the Big 12 Barstool move? Love it. Meh. Too risky for the league. Fun for fans. And meh. 43%. 31% strong, though. Love it. And then too risky for the league. 10%.
I don't know if it's too risky.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they have to lose, really, other than what little respect I guess they do have for everybody else that doesn't already respect them. I don't know, other than like, I guess it could go poorly. Somehow Barstool does something stupid over the top. You're all of a sudden in bad headlines. I ultimately think it's fun for fans, most of all. And I think it's a smart business play when you don't have a lot of business plays on the table in front of you. This one makes sense because of just how ingrained they now are, for better or worse, depending on who you are as a sports fan. There's some stuff I like. There's some stuff it might as well be like trash reality TV. And so I don't care for it. But I do think if they execute it correctly, much like for the Big Ten, there could be some new fans made, but it's not going to be overnight. So I think I'm in the fun for fans of all of these, because I'm not like, oh my God, I can't wait.
Right.
I'm also not really meh, but clearly most people are.
I think I'm meh. Like I'm very meh in general when it comes to Barstool, like outside of Big Cat. And I think we mentioned this the other day, like PMT, I don't even watch it regularly. I just see the social media clips and I get a laugh out of it. And I like T-Bob, going over there, but I just, okay.
Yeah, I think that would be my second choice as well. And so, yeah, I don't know if I sat and really thought about it, meh might actually be my answer eventually, because it is sort of like, we'll see.
Right.
We'll see what happens. So I see why that's definitely the leader right there. So, all right, thanks to the people that voted on that one. And that leads us to a couple of trivia questions here to close out the show finally. Which program was the first to reach 900 all-time wins in college football history? I'm going to say Michigan.
I know the answer because they did this to me earlier, and I got it wrong.
Okay.
And Michigan was not my choice. I'll leave it at that.
So,
Brandon?
Michigan.
I went Notre Dame. I was thinking Notre Dame, and I felt I knew it had to be either them or Michigan, but I guess I'm just like stuck in the whole brainwashing of Newt Rockne and all that crap coming up.
Yeah.
So I assumed it was them, but no, Michigan makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I'd seen maybe a few years back Michigan when I was looking up like where certain teams were for like rivalry purposes, and I looked it up here. Michigan, the only program. This is cool. Yeah, I remember this now because I kind of started doing some of this last year and we never got around to it. So maybe I'll put that on the Smoak Break show instead. But Michigan, the only program that has more than 1,000 wins.
Damn.
They got 1,013. Ohio State needs 21 more wins to be the second team to join the 1,000 win club. So they'll get there in the next couple years, definitely in the next couple years, or Ryan Day's fired. So that will happen by the end of 2027, I would say, as Ohio State joins that club. Not far behind Alabama at 974, Notre Dame at 962, and then Texas at 961. Those are your top 5 teams. But, yeah, Michigan. All right, got that one right. Can we close strong? Which wrestler did John Cena face in his debut on SmackDown in 2002? I know this. I want to say it's Kurt Angle.
I have no idea.
All right.
The man.
Woo! Yeah, I remember this. I hadn't thought about it in a long time, and John Cena's career is wrapping up. We'll be shutting it down at the end of the year. He's on his retirement tour leg of WWE performance. This will still be around the company, doing the, kissing babies, shaking hands, doing all that good stuff and promoting. But, yeah, I remember he was a much different John Cena back then.
Right.
He wasn't even like rapper John Cena. He was just like generic, like build a wrestler on WWE 2K.
Right.
Just some random dude. Yeah. And eventually he turned into what he turned into, which is arguably the greatest all time, depending on what you take into account. But there you go. We are way over today, but it was because we were having so much fun, guys. So thank you to Brandon Lowe. Great job behind the scenes, man, juggling a lot. Andrew Valet, great job handling business behind the scenes, helping with graphics and socials and getting all that stuff up there. Thanks to Garrett Ross as well, helping out on the production side, helping get up the audio and the interviews for everybody to check out on YouTube after the fact at 365 Sports YT. And thank you to you, the audience, most of all, that stuck around and hung with us today. We'll be back with Smokey rejoining us tomorrow, and we'll be talking about the college football weekend that's coming up starting tomorrow. So looking forward to that. Have a great night, everybody. Appreciate you. This is 365 Sports.